Chapter 1248. This night passed by very strangely just like that. The two supreme martial artists who were in charge of surveillance were tormented throughout the night. If they were monitoring other people, they could at least rest for a while. But monitoring this successor of the Purple Crystal clan, they didn't close their eyes for almost the entire night. In fact, they didn't even blink once. In just one night, they saw this fellow sprawled out in the bathtub, absorbing purple crystals continuously while a few pretty and adorable maids moved purple crystals back and forth. Like a mouse-moving house. Then, they watched as the purple crystals that were moved in decreased at a speed visible to the naked eye and finally turned into powder. Finally, dawn arrived. Chu Yang jumped out of the water with a splash. The two supreme martial artists above suddenly discovered that this successor of the Purple Crystal clan had a purple color all over his body. Even his muscles had turned purple. Especially his right hand, it was shining with even more purple light. It was as if his entire person had already transformed into a whole piece of purple crystal. He muttered to himself, with 10,000 purple crystals, I've finally upgraded the purple crystal prospecting hand to a stage where I can go all out in prospecting. Looks like I should be able to increase my progress today. The two supreme martial artists above were shocked. Purple crystal prospecting hand? It needs to be accumulated with purple crystal energy, so that's why. This kind of hot spring is indeed helpful in strengthening the purple crystal prospecting hand. This successor of the purple crystal muttered, it's a pity. The water temperature is still not too hot. This will inevitably cause the mining speed to be very slow. However, it's already very good that this kind of pure hot spring can have such an effect. I don't need to be so demanding anymore. Although it will cause the mining speed to be slow, we have time after all. Besides, it's also safe. This successor of the purple crystal muttered to himself as he put on his clothes. Then, the next moment, he went out like a whirlwind. I have to go and test its power first. See how much I can mine. The next moment, his figure had already disappeared. Purple crystals are used to practice the purple crystal prospecting hand, and the purple crystal prospecting hand is used to mine purple crystal mines. Li Wubo frowned as he looked at the two supreme martial artists in front of him. I heard him say so. Besides, judging from his appearance, he shouldn't be lying. It shouldn't be a lie, the two supreme martial artists thought for a while, and answered seriously. He said that the hot spring is very useful for the purple crystal prospecting hand. But the temperature isn't high. Li's eyes were shining. Yes. However, he also said that although the speed would be slower this way, he was no longer demanding. He even said that he had plenty of time. From what he said, he should be planning to stay in our Li clan for a long time. The two supreme martial artists said cautiously. That won't do either. Li Wubo's eyes flickered. He has plenty of time, but we don't have much time left. The Calamity Sword Master has already appeared in the upper three heavens. Perhaps he will come to our Li clan in the next moment. The war with the 8 great clans could break out at any time. What's the point of dragging it out like this? Li Wubo thought for a while and made a prompt decision. I'll get someone to enlarge the geocentric hot spring immediately. Patriarch is wise. Li Wubo nodded and smiled. However, there was also bitterness on his face. Sigh. 10,000 purple crystals in one night. This speed is really. He didn't say anything, only letting out a long sigh. But everyone understood what he meant. It was just one day and one night. 10,000 purple crystals had all turned into powder. What kind of huge consumption was this? Although the daily production of the purple crystal mine was enough to satisfy this number, but what about the rest of the clan? At present, the daily production of purple crystals from the clan's purple crystal mine was only 12,000 pieces. Previously, this number made the Li clan extremely proud. But now, they could only smile bitterly. It seemed that as long as that huge purple crystal mine hadn't been excavated yet, then, for every day this successor of the Purple Crystal clan stayed here, the entire huge Li clan would have to work for here. Moreover, even their wages were almost gone. It all depends on the Purple Crystal mine. Li Wubo's eyes narrowed slightly. A purple crystal core. It was equivalent to 1,000 ordinary purple crystals. A piece of purple crystal jade essence was equivalent to 1,000 purple crystal cores. As for souls of the purple crystal, holy crystals, and divine crystals, they definitely couldn't be measured with so-called value. As long as this huge purple crystal mine could be excavated, what did the losses now amount to? On the other side, Chu Yang had already arrived at that huge purple crystal mine. When he passed, he just waved his identity token arrogantly and walked in arrogantly. Who would dare to stop him? Finally, he reached the front of that huge core of the mountain. Taking a deep breath, Chu Yang placed his right hand on the needle-sized mark that he had dug out yesterday. Sword Spirit, when can you take action? In the consciousness space, Chu Yang was rather impatient. No hurry. I'll be able to go in when there's a slight gap. The Sword Spirit was very calm. It's so big and sealed. Once there's a slight gap, won't it collapse directly from the inside out? If that's the case, we'll really be working for the Li clan. Chu Yang was rather worried. Definitely not. The Sword Spirit was very certain. I've done a lot of sneaky things like this. Once we enter, I'll seal the entrance from the inside. Then, you'll widen the entrance from the outside and make it look like you're doing something. Chu Yang nodded in relief. That's great. You must remember that you have to start from the top. Oh right, can the tribulation space handle it? This guy was actually already worried about the capacity of the tribulation space. No problem at all. The Sword Spirit guaranteed without any hesitation. Okay, good. I'll start now. After a long time, Lord Z was so tired that he lay on the ground like a dead dog. He had no energy left in him at all. He opened his mouth and called, "Guards!" A supreme martial artist expert who had been watching him from afar jumped over. "Lord Z, use a brush and draw a mark on this place that I've excavated. Why do you have to search for it for so long every time you come here?" Lord Z berated him without any reservation. "Yes. Hurry up and get me some purple crystals and some heavenly treasures to recover my energy." Fuck, the Li clan doesn't even know how to read the situation. Every time I mine, I'll be exhausted. Why didn't you make any preparations in advance? Yes, I'll go right away. A huge pile of purple crystals was placed in front of Lord Z. As Lord Z channeled his energy to absorb the power of the purple crystals, he drank tea and ate heavenly treasures, exquisite snow lotus, a specialty of the Northwest. He chewed on the purple crystals as if he was eating jelly beans. Finally, after 6 hours, Lord Z absorbed another 7,000 purple crystals. In the afternoon, he once again executed the mining technique. Then, he really turned into a puddle of mud. Carry me back. To rest. Chu Yang's eyes were lifeless and he looked like he was about to collapse. He called out weakly, I can't take it anymore. Don't forget to prepare 10,000 purple crystals and send them to where I'm staying. More will do too. Today's progress is really too great. Immediately, a supreme being carefully carried him on his back and sent him back safely. He lamented in his heart, this Lord Z is actually a man of character. Even he is so tired that he has turned into a puddle of mud. I can really feel it, there's not even the slightest bit of energy left in his body. After Chu Yang left, Li Wubua, the clan leader of the Li clan, immediately brought a group of old men to check on him. With one look, everyone was overjoyed. Yesterday, he was so tired that there was only a small hole the size of a needle tip. But today, it was already the size of a peanut. Compared to yesterday's progress, it was at least 100 times faster. Above, it looked like the 17,000 purple crystals were not wasted. The effect was too obvious. Yesterday, it was a needle tip. Today, it was a peanut, even though this peanut was still far away from being completely opened up, and there was still a long way to go before it could be opened up into a passageway that could allow humans to enter and exit, but Li Wubua was still somewhat satisfied. For 10,000 years, he hadn't left a single mark the size of a strand of hair on it. Now, there was actually such a profound development. How could he not be happy? Everyone, go back. You must keep this matter a secret. Facing the people who followed him, the clan leader gave the highest level of gag order. Next, we will do our best to prepare for this matter. Everything else can be put aside. Yes, clan leader. An old man at the side said, it's just that. With regard to the matter of the various superclans surrounding and annihilating the extraterrestrial demon Chu Yang, clan leader's intention is, extraterrestrial demon my ass. Li Wubwa snorted. I've never heard of it. Besides, if they are willing to encircle and annihilate him, let them do it. The Li clan will just have to make a gesture. Sooner or later, we will become enemies. The more their strength is depleted, the better. The more our strength is maintained, the better. Yes. With regard to this Zi Xiaoyan, you must keep a tight watch on him. Li Wubwa's eyes flickered. Make good use of the time to start those steps that we have decided on. If by the time this purple crystal mine is ready for mining and those plans still haven't made any progress, kill him as soon as possible. Yes. When Chu Yang returned, he jumped straight into the pool and started to absorb the purple crystals again. Of course, the soles of his feet still came into contact with the mouth of the earth core fire. Instantly, he felt comfortable all over. He muttered to himself, could it be an illusion? Why does the earth core fire seem to be much bigger today? The two supreme martial artists in the dark looked at each other and smiled. In such an enemy's home where danger lurked everywhere, Chu Yang began the most diligent cultivation of his life. Furthermore, it was a cultivation where he quietly made a fortune under layers of surveillance. As the earth core fire carried the rich energy of the earth into his body and into his meridians, when it had accumulated to a certain amount, Chu Yang finally discovered the biggest problem of his cultivation. All along, everyone had been absorbing the energy of the universe for cultivation. But it was only today that Chu Yang realized that the energy of the universe used for cultivation in the past was really too monotonous. Moreover, it was lifeless. Chapter 1249. And now, Chu Yang really had such a feeling of cultivation. The energy from the Earth's core gradually merged with the huge flow of energy in his body. Slowly, Chu Yang felt that his own energy had a kind of joy similar to that of life. It was as if spring rain had suddenly come to the land that had been dry for a long time. Although this spring rain wasn't heavy, it was good in that it moistened things silently. It was a kind of emotion that was close to touching. Chu Yang suddenly had a feeling, all living things have vitality, including the land and the sky, including wind, clouds, thunder, lightning, all plants, even stones and metals. When you can't activate them, they're just dead things. But when you activate them, they each have their own brilliance. Just like the energy of heaven and earth. For example, a dry land that hasn't rained for 10,000 years was still land. But once it rained, the brilliance that the land could display would be able to move anyone with a heart of stone. Chu Yang was somewhat addicted to this feeling. Slowly, he felt that his spirit seemed to be improving. His life seemed to be undergoing nirvana and entering a brand new realm. His spiritual energy suddenly increased by leaps and bounds. This speed of growth made the sword spirit in the tribulation space field terrified. Ever since he swallowed the spiritual energy of the first tribulation sword master at the bottom of the lake of despair, Chu Yang's spiritual energy hadn't increased on its own. Or rather, even if there was, compared to his original spiritual energy, it was absolutely negligible. But this time, it was an increase that was like a tsunami. The sea was very big. If you added a ladle of water to the sea, even the gods wouldn't be able to see the increase. But what if you added all the water in the Yangtze River and Yellow River into the sea overnight? If you couldn't see the increase, you'd be a fool. Chu Yang's current growth was similar to this principle. He's made a breakthrough in his state of mind again, the sword spirit muttered to himself, his eyes filled with excitement and gratification. And this breakthrough in his state of mind will allow him to come into contact with the real great Tao much earlier. In the next few days, Chu Yang maintained this cycle. Crack the purple crystal mine, come back to rest, and practice as if he was thirsty. Chu Yang shone with the greatest passion for practice in his life. Countless amounts of earth core yuan qi were absorbed into his body. However, Chu Yang didn't feel any increase in his cultivation. He only felt the change in the energy in his body. This was the earth core yuan qi. They had all fused into the original heaven's origin qi, and were changing every single strand of origin qi in the meridians. Let it truly transform into heaven and earth. Yuan Qi. Chu Yang felt himself becoming different day by day, but he didn't change at all. The only thing that changed was the 2 strands of primordial real silk in Chu Yang's dantian. The first strand gradually became fuller and fuller. Finally, it stopped growing as if it was completely saturated. Then, the second one also began to grow slowly. It had only been 7 days. The second strand of primordial real silk was already close to the appearance of the first strand before he came to the Li clan. However, Chu Yang increasingly felt that the energy of the earth core fire below was not enough for him to absorb. This opening was still too small. Therefore, after grumbling once, the Li clan secretly sent people to double the number again. Such a temperature. The water inside was hot enough to cook the meat. Everyone wanted to be comfortable, so no one was willing to make the bathwater so hot. Therefore, Chu Yang could be considered the first person in the Li clan. Of course, in return, Chu Yang also finally removed that mark the next time he went to mine the purple crystal mine. He had cut it to the size of a wine cup. Such progress made everyone in the Li clan happy. They were also overjoyed. No one knew that inside this opening, there was a gap that couldn't be seen with the naked eye that had already been dug in deeply. That was the power of the tribulation sword. It had been penetrating inside since the first day, and now, it was already on the verge of success. The 11th day. Chu Yang specially instructed, "Today, I have to work overtime here. I haven't made much progress for a long time, so I'm a little anxious. Let's work overtime to see if we can speed up." Of course, clan leader Li was overjoyed. He couldn't ask for more. However, don't let anyone disturb me. When I use the purple crystal prospecting hand, it's very easy to be disturbed. I must maintain absolute silence. If I'm disturbed, I'm afraid I'll go crazy. Although I won't lose my life, I won't be able to recover for a year and a half. To this, the Li clan immediately responded, "No one is allowed to go near Lord Z. Anyone who goes near him, no matter who it is, will be killed without mercy. But you must supply me with purple crystals and elixirs in a timely manner. Just place them within 5 feet behind me." Chu Yang made a new request. Now, behind Chu Yang was a thick marten coat. Behind the marten coat was a mountain of purple crystals. Every time Minister Chu was tired, he could lie down directly on the warm marten coat. Then, he could reach out with both hands and touch the purple crystals. This was practically an ideal world where he could stretch out his hand and eat whatever he wanted. Right in the middle of the night, Chu Yang only felt his hand loosen, and the tribulation sword trembled slightly in excitement. Chu Yang's heart shook. It was through. This thing was indeed unprecedentedly sturdy. Even with the power of the tribulation sword, it actually took a full 11 days to attack it. According to a rough estimate, the thickness of this barrier was a full 300 feet. "I'm going," said the sword spirit. "Wait." Chu Yang roared with his consciousness. "Take me with you." The sword spirit was speechless at once. "How are you going to go? If you place my consciousness on your body, won't I be able to go in with you? You have to satisfy my curiosity." Chu Yang chuckled. The sword spirit snorted. "All right." The next moment, the sword spirit silently and without a trace. Following Chu Yang's palm, it turned into something like a strand of hair and squeezed into that extremely narrow space. Chu Yang's right hand was placed on the opening that was the size of a teacup's mouth. Purple aura spread all over his body, a surge of consciousness. Followed by squeezing in. To outsiders, this successor of the Purple Crystal clan was going all out, mining and digging with all his might. This small opening was forcefully sealed by the sword spirit using his soul power from the inside. This was a guarantee. With the sword spirit's unparalleled mental power here, apart from the sword spirit and Chu Yang, even if all the peak-level low-grade supreme martial artists in the world were to gather here and work together, they would definitely not be able to penetrate even the slightest bit of their mental power. These two fellows were obviously going to eat it all alone, and it was going to be a super luxurious feast that had never been seen before in history. Once they went in, the sword spirit and Chu Yang were dazzled at once. In front of them were basically densely packed purple crystal cores. Furthermore, Only a small portion of them were wrapped in origin stones, most of them were bare. Chu Yang swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He urged the sword spirit to penetrate upwards. Why don't we keep these purple crystal cores first? The sword spirit said somewhat reluctantly. Seeing so many treasures, the sword spirit instinctively felt greedy. No, these are all at the lowest level. Once the lowest level is moved, the top will collapse. Let's start from the top first. Chu Yang firmly stopped him. He secretly rejoiced. Damn it. Fortunately, I followed you in. Otherwise, this bastard almost got me in trouble. The sword spirit reluctantly floated upwards and squeezed through the cracks in the rocks. After a few hundred feet, the sword spirit calmed down. Damn it, what are purple crystal cores? This place is full of them. And purple crystal jade essence, piece by piece. The small ones are the size of a palm, and the big ones are actually the size of a human body. Then he increased his speed. Let's reach the top first. After traveling for an hour, they finally reached the top. Looking up, they saw a huge pentagonal spire, filled with purple mist. They didn't know how high or far it was. The sword spirit didn't have the time to look. With a wave of his hands, a large piece of the countless purple crystal cores under his feet was cleared. They entered the tribulation space. Chu Yang was immersed in the tribulation space waiting. Suddenly, with a clatter, purple crystals continuously fell from the top of his head. Piece by piece, fell endlessly like hailstones. They were all purple crystal cores. In the blink of an eye, they had piled up into a small mountain. Chu Yang was dumbfounded. Although he had already guessed and prepared, the purple crystal cores in front of him were far superior to the ones in the outside world, be it in quality, size, or content. It still shocked Chu Yang. The purple crystal cores rained continuously for an hour, and then the purple crystal jade essence began to fall. In the beginning, it was one piece after another, one piece after another, then, piece by piece, then, one piece after another, one piece after another. The tribulation space rumbled, and Minister Chu was dizzy and dumbfounded. Flowers bloomed in his heart. Thanks to the sword spirit's control over the tribulation space, the purple crystal cores and purple crystal jade essence fell in separate piles. They were orderly and didn't interfere with each other's business. After the purple crystal jade essence fell for a while, the purple crystal cores rained down again. Then, the purple crystal jade essence began to fall again. 2 hours passed. A rough calculation showed that the number of purple crystal cores that had fallen so far was as huge as 100,000. And there were at least 10,000 purple crystal jade essence. Only the top of the spire was left. Now, the sword spirit, who was still drooling over the purple crystal cores, had completely lost his mind. He was even cursing now. These purple crystal cores are really too much of a hindrance. After sweeping through several feet of purple crystal cores, he reached the purple crystal jade essence. But the purple crystal jade essence was in the core after all, surrounded by purple crystal cores. The sword spirit had to collect the purple crystal cores every time before he could collect the purple crystal jade essence. This made the sword spirit very unhappy. Too much of a hindrance. Begging for votes. I will continue to write the third update. G. Recommended a book. Super Wild Dragon Clone is a very fun book. Everyone, go and read it. Chapter 1250. At this moment, the sword spirit had completely forgotten that these purple crystal cores that he regarded as trash were all rare treasures in the outside world. The sword spirit worked tirelessly and continuously collected the purple crystal cores and purple crystal jade essence into the tribulation space. But it was undeniable that without a physical body, it was indeed very taxing on one's mind to collect these things using only the power of the soul. Especially since these things were all very heavy, and very, very heavy. 6 hours later, the sword spirit crawled out of the tribulation space with trembling legs and returned to the purple crystal space at once. After entering, the first thing he did was to sit down in the soul-tempering pool. Then, facing the 28 words that Xue Leihan had once written using the divine light of samsara, he entered a deep state of meditation. After he collected the top of this purple crystal mine, it dropped down to a height of 500 feet. In other words, the top 500 feet of this treasure trove had already been cleared. But this couldn't be seen from the outside at all. Moreover, the top was sharp and the lower it went, the thicker it got. The content of this purple crystal mine was truly at a shocking level. With such a volume and such purity, Chu Yang was very confident that even someone like Xue Leihan would probably be shocked when he saw this treasure trove. The pure value of wealth was already absolutely heaven-defying. Not even 1% of it had been collected, and even the sword spirit was exhausted. What made Chu Yang regretful was that after collecting so much, he still hadn't seen what the next soul of the purple crystal looked like. However, there were more and more purple crystal jade essence, and they were getting denser and denser. Presumably, the soul of the purple crystal would be next. The successor of the purple crystal clan, Lord Z, had worked overtime here for 3 days. 3 days later, the limp Lord Z was carried back as usual. As usual, Li Wubo and the rest came to check on the progress. Very effective. Very effective. Li Wubo exclaimed excitedly the moment he arrived. He was so excited that even his pupils had dilated a little. The group of old men from the Li clan who came with him were also grinning from ear to ear. The last time I saw it, it was only the size of a wine cup. This time, it's already the size of a fist. Li Wubo's voice was a little excited. This really gives me hope. Great hope. At the side, a supreme martial artist who had been watching from afar said, "Yes, and in these 3 days, that Lord Z has been working without rest." Clan head, this Lord Z is indeed a sexual lover. Li Wubo's eyes flickered. Millimeter, however, it's really regrettable that Lord Z has used up so many purple crystals. That supreme martial artist looked at the piles of purple crystal powder on the ground, feeling a little heartache and speechless. Lord Z has used up 10,000 purple crystals in just these 3 days. 10,000 purple crystals. 3 days. The muscles on Li Wubo's face twitched in heartache. He couldn't help but feel heartache. For 11 consecutive days, it used to be 10,000 purple crystals a day, but on the second day, it became 17,000. Then, it continued to increase until now, it had already consumed a total of 300,000 purple crystals. Looking at the fist-sized hole in front of him that was only half a foot deep, Li Wubo had the urge to vomit blood. The price of 300,000 purple crystals in exchange for such a large hole. This was too much of a scam. At this rate, to completely break through, at least 100 million purple crystals will be needed. That supreme martial artist took a deep breath and said in a solemn voice, 100 million purple crystals. At least. Li Wubo's body trembled. Everyone's expression changed at the same time. 100 million purple crystals. That was not 10,000. Li Wubo's expression turned gloomy. He said slowly, "Third Elder, can you please use all your cultivation to slash at this hole?" When he said this, everyone's eyes lit up. Yes, they couldn't do it in the past, but that was in the past. In the past, there wasn't such a hole. Since there was a hole now, couldn't they use this hole to break it? Theoretically speaking, this matter was completely feasible. As long as there was an effect, they wouldn't have to spend so many purple crystals anymore. Why didn't they think of this after such a long time? This third elder was a tall and slender old man. He had been watching with his hands behind his back, his demeanor aloof. At this moment, after hearing Li Wubo's words, he nodded slowly and said, "All right, I'll do my best this time. All of you, step back a little." Without needing him to say anything, everyone retreated 500 feet away in an orderly manner. Only the third elder stood 10 feet in front of this towering stone pillar. The third elder took a deep breath. Then, with a clang, he unsheathed his sword. Sword light flickered at the tip of the sword, blazing white. Immediately after, he let out a thunderous roar. His sword light was like a wild dragon as it rushed over. Everyone held their breaths and watched. The next moment, boom, crack, heart, boom. It was a loud crash. The crack was the sound of the sword that the third elder had worn all his life, breaking and shattering into pieces. As for the last it was undoubtedly the third elder's tragic cry. Under everyone's watchful eyes, fog like a mushroom cloud erupted from the ground. The entire mountain shook a few times as well. Then, the third elder's body flew up like a rubber ball. He retreated rapidly, blood spurting out from his mouth in mid-air. Everyone was shocked. They hurriedly caught the third elder in their hands. At a glance, they were all speechless. The third elder had indeed used all his cultivation to stab with this sword. But it was also because of this that 70% of the bones in the third elder's body had been broken by the backlash from the huge force. He had sunk into a deep coma. "Quick, call a doctor," Li Wubo roared in heartache. At this moment, another voice cried out in shock, "Clan Master, come and take a look. This. Li Wubo and the rest turned around and flew over to the front of the mark. At a glance, everyone was speechless. They had thought that after such a huge impact, even if it couldn't be split open, it would at least leave some marks. But now, everyone's hearts were chilled to the core. Nothing at all. Not even a white mark was left behind. Everyone was instantly disappointed. It seemed that other than that successor of the Purple Crystal clan, there was no other way in the world. An all-out attack by an 8th-grade supreme martial artist had actually been injured to such an extent that they didn't know whether he was dead or alive. "Ah! What's going on?" The supreme martial artist who was closest to the mark roared again, as if he had seen a flying pig. Everyone hurriedly moved closer again. At a glance, everyone's body shook at the same time. At this moment, an emotion called as dejected as death welled up in everyone's hearts. They saw that this fist-sized hole suddenly healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. It slowly bulged from the inside and then slowly shrank. When it finally returned to the size of a wine cup 4 to 5 days ago, it stopped moving. Everyone was dumbfounded. "Damn it! What's going on?" "I see. Forcefully breaking it with force will only make it stronger and stronger. Moreover, it can also use the force of the attack to heal itself." Thinking of how he had been constantly urging the experts to attack this thing all these years, Li Wubo almost wanted to carve himself with his sword at this moment. Wasn't this constantly providing power to this thing to make it stronger? Everyone was suddenly enlightened. All of them looked as if they were about to die. "What should we do now? That Lord Z's temper isn't good to begin with. Now, he's even more, going to fly into a rage," that supreme martial artist said in a daze. "Cough, all of you just bear with it. Cough, during this period of time. I won't be coming to check." Li Wubo coughed a few times, turned around and left in dejection and embarrassment. He was afraid that the successor of the Purple Crystal clan would come the next moment. If that was the case, the one who would be subjected to a torrent of abuse would be him. "Hurry up and leave. Cough, all of you be careful. During this period of time, I won't be coming either." Another old man hurriedly slipped out. Cough. "Me too," watching these clan elders disappear without a trace one by one like rabbits being chased by dogs. The supreme martial artist in charge of the Purple Crystal mine wanted to cry. "You've all left. What should I do? I'm the supervisor, there's no way I can escape." Dawn of the next day. Lord Z's roars reverberated throughout the entire Purple Crystal mine. Even the entire Li clan, no matter where they were, could hear Lord Z's exasperated curses. "What's going on? What's going on? Bastard! What's going on?" Chu Yang had indeed gone mad with anger. He had gone through so much trouble to create a hole, but for some unknown reason, this bunch of fellows had even blocked the gap where the sword spirit could enter and exit. It was only temporary. But Minister Chu still felt extremely uncomfortable. A certain supreme martial artist in charge of the Purple Crystal mine stood at the side with a bitter expression, explaining carefully. "Bullshit." Chu Yang's furious scolding caused this pitiful old man's face to be smeared with Lord Z's saliva. Do all of them have nothing better to do? Even if they have nothing better to do, they should fucking go and find their own entertainment. Didn't I say long ago that once it starts, no one else can interfere? Who do they think they are? Who do they think they are? Clan leader? What's a clan leader? Don't you want your future? Don't you want your grandchildren? They're all dead, all right? You can't do anything right. He looks smart, but in actual fact, his brain is full of tofu dregs. This Li Wubo is practically the #1 idiot in the world since ancient times. A super idiot that has never been seen since ancient times. The one and only idiot in the world. Chu Yang's voice shook the heavens and the earth. Living to such an extent, why doesn't he just die? The entire Li clan was stunned at this moment. Who was it that dared to mention the clan leader's name and scold him so brazenly? How awesome! Li Wubo's face was full of black lines. Sitting in his study room, he gritted his teeth so hard that they made grinding sounds. The doors and windows were already tightly shut, but that loud scolding still traveled in incessantly. Clan leader, who is so audacious? I'll go and destroy him. A guard asked eagerly. Get lost. What does this have to do with you? With a slap, Li Wubo sent this guard, who had failed in his bootlicking, flying out. Chapter 1251. This successor of the Purple Crystal clan was really full of anger. He didn't stop scolding for a full 3 hours without stopping. Furthermore, he didn't repeat any of his words. His profanities were endless and could be said to be the greatest collection of scolding since ancient times. This opened the ears of the Li clan's people. As a result, after this incident, when the shrews of the Li clan cursed on the streets, they suddenly had a lot of new words that were enough to make one seethe with anger. The entire Purple Crystal mine was shaken by him. Everyone kept quiet out of fear. It wasn't that they couldn't refute him. It was just that they felt that what they did wasn't very good. Furthermore, they were also worried that if they angered this master too much, he would suddenly become stubborn and say, I won't help you mine anymore. I'll kill you if I want to. I'll do whatever I want. That would be terrible. Furthermore, judging from this Lord Z's personality, there was a huge possibility that he would do something like this. He was all alone in the Li clan, and even the clan head of the Li clan had been scolded by him on the streets. What else was there that this valiant man wouldn't do? Everyone wisely chose to remain silent. Chu Yang scolded fiercely for a while before he finally went back to work. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. That was close. This master actually didn't give up. Little did they know that not only would this Lord Z not give up, even if the entire Li clan boycotted him, he would still complete the mining. Such a huge treasure. How could Chu Yang be at ease leaving it in the hands of the enemy? After Chu Yang started digging again, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. Although that gap was blocked, it wasn't as strong as before. He only used 4 hours to successfully reopen it. Of course, the sword spirit went in right away and started plundering. According to the sword master's request, he carried out the 3 empty policies: take everything, take everything, take everything. Don't even leave a bit of purple crystal powder for them. The sword spirit started to do manual labor, and it was a manual labor in high spirit. In the tribulation space, a rain of purple crystal cores and purple crystal jade essence began to pour down again. This time, Chu Yang shockingly discovered that the further he went, the more purple crystal jade essence he extracted was no longer in small pieces. Instead, it was in large pieces. The heaviest piece weighed at least a few £1,000. Just this one piece was already worth hundreds of millions of energy points of an ordinary purple crystal. In terms of purity, it was far superior. And it wasn't just one piece. There were hundreds, thousands, and tens of thousands of pieces. Lord Z started working overtime again, and this time, he worked overtime for 3 days. Of course, this cost the Li clan another 10,000 purple crystals. But this time, no one in the Li clan felt heartache for the purple crystals. Instead, they were worried Lord Z was so desperate. Would he tire himself out? Of course. No one was worried about his body being worn out. What they were most worried about was, if this Lord Z died from exhaustion before the purple crystal mine had even been excavated. That would be terrible. No one knew that this huge treasure vault had actually been opened a long time ago, and the amazing treasures inside had already been moved into this hardworking Lord Z's pocket. All the Li clan members who were eagerly anticipating would never have imagined that what they were looking forward to was just an empty shell. They wouldn't get anything, when that supreme martial artist manager carefully came forward with a smiling face to curry favor. When he asked Lord Z to rest for a while, "There's no need to work so hard and take care of your body," Chu Yang stomped his feet and scolded, "What if I don't work overtime? This bunch of pig brains have sealed up this place again. If I don't take advantage of the time to open up this place and restore it to its original state in 2 to 3 days, won't all my previous efforts be wasted?" This supreme martial artist nodded submissively and hurriedly slipped away with a head full of saliva. Kindness really didn't pay off. Go ahead, work yourself to death. What does it have to do with me? 3 days later, Lord Z was carried back as usual, completely exhausted. Before he left, he actually said, "Keep a close eye on him. If anyone dares to come and cause trouble, then I'll knock myself to death here." Actually, he didn't even need to say this. Who would be so free as to go to the purple crystal mine to get scolded? Even the clan master was scolded. After they went back. This time, Lord Z rested for 2 full days. Everyone in the Li clan was so anxious that they were burning with impatience. There was no need to mention their impatience. Chu Yang didn't want to rest at such a critical time either. But the sword spirit couldn't take it anymore after 2 consecutive days of super intense work. He had to recover. Besides, the sword spirit discovered that as his mental energy was overloaded this time, his mental energy also seemed to be increasing. While the sword spirit was recovering, although Chu Yang was unwilling to rest, he also took advantage of this opportunity to absorb the earth core fire and the power of the earth with all his might. Therefore, in these 2 days, in the eyes of outsiders, this Lord Z was just immersed in the bathtub and didn't come out at all. This was really extremely strange. They had never seen someone so addicted to bathing. You asked for so many fucking beauties to serve you, but after all this time, you're just soaking in the bathtub by yourself. You haven't even gone to bed yourself yet. This was too strange. But no one dared to ask. Especially when Lord Z recovered slightly, the first thing he did was to raise his hand and punch a huge hole in the ceiling of the room he was staying in. The place where he hit happened to be where the 2 supreme martial artist experts were hiding. They had been hiding here for more than 10 days without being discovered. Who would have thought that they would be attacked today? With a cry of shock, the 2 supreme martial artists fell down with a plop. Lord Z's eyes were still closed, lying in the bathtub half dead. In a lazy voice, he said, "You've been watching for so long, you should know what's going on. Go back and tell Clan Master Li that when I bathe, I like to be watched by women. As for men, forget it." After saying this, he didn't say anything else. From start to end, he didn't open his eyes. The 2 supreme martial artists smiled bitterly at each other. They had no choice but to leave and report back to Li Wubo. Li Wubo was also at his wit's end. He waved his hand and dismissed the 2 of them, but also stopped monitoring Lord Z. Even a 5th-grade supreme martial artist was discovered. Did they still have to trouble the elder masters to monitor this Lord Z who was like a coolie? They just had to keep an eye on him from the outside. Besides, this Z Xiaoyan looked like a straightforward and hot-tempered person. An incomparably one-track-minded fool. Was there a need to be so scheming against him? One had to admit that the commotion created by Lord Z these few days had all proven that he was a one-track-minded fool. Such a good image. If they still had to treat such a person seriously as if they were facing a great enemy, wouldn't they be thinking too highly of him? Chu Yang finally got some peace and quiet. However, he was extremely interested in the person living next to him. Within the range of his divine senses, the neighbor who was close to him was naturally the first target of his attention. Moreover, Chu Yang also knew that the place he was living in was one of the few core houses. Then, how could the person living next to him be bad? But what made him gasp in amazement was the person on his left. He was really a little perverted. Every morning, there would be sounds of cultivation and all kinds of torment. Although that person was trying his best to control the sound, how could Chu Yang not notice it? In these few days, he was indeed amazed by this person's perseverance and tenacity to the extent of amazement. When he started cultivating in the early morning, the wind blew and he didn't stop for even a moment. He exerted all his strength for a full 4 hours. After 4 hours, under such high-intensity cultivation, the internal energy in his body should have been depleted. Then, He would start all kinds of high-intensity training. For example, running with weights and all kinds of self-torture exercises. Chu Yang was sure that this person's weight was at least 3,000 kilograms. And this was only added after the usual training. Judging from the sound of this person's feet stepping on the ground, this person was most likely carrying no less than 250 kilograms on him at all times. Be it eating or sleeping, he would carry it like this. After the high-intensity training, according to his breathing, it was time to breathe again. After 2 hours of breathing, another round began, a day of such a cycle. At least 4 times. Chu Yang calculated this person's real rest time for a day. It definitely wouldn't exceed 2 hours. And once he started training, he would go all out. Compared to the cultivation of ordinary martial artists, the time taken was 4 times longer and the intensity was many times stronger. There was actually such a person in the world. Such a crazy training was simply to the point of destroying oneself. If one's physical condition wasn't strong enough, one might even die from the training. But the person next door was obviously improving every day, according to Chu Yang's estimation, to be able to endure such high-intensity training, persevere, and continuously improve such physical conditions. If there wasn't the support of the incomplete version of heavy pills, only one of his brother's physical strength would be able to endure such a high level of training. It was Dong Wushang. This was innately determined physical strength, and had nothing to do with mental energy or combat strength. It was an innate gift. Jiyu Duxing's combat strength might not be lower than Dong Wushang's, but in terms of pure physical strength, he was far inferior. But even if it was Dong Wushang, if he continued to train like this, he would sooner or later kill himself. Dong Wushang was already working hard enough, but compared to the person next door, he was still far inferior. Occasionally, he would go all out like this, but he was stopped by Chu Yang. Doing this would yield the greatest results in the shortest time, but, in the long run, it was tantamount to suicide. Once the body gave the signal that it couldn't take it anymore, this person would be ruined. How could Chu Yang let Dong Wushang make such a sacrifice? But now, the person next door was working hard just like this. Chu Yang couldn't control his curiosity and asked, "Who lives next door? First update, send to me monthly votes. G." Chapter 1252. Under Lord Z's intimidation, all the girls were so scared that they hid outside and kept quiet out of fear. All of them perked up their ears to listen to the commotion inside. They were afraid that they wouldn't be able to hear anything. That would be big trouble. This man even dared to mention the clan master by name. If he really killed them, there probably wouldn't be many people in the Li clan who would dare to question him and even praise him. Well done. What's the use of keeping them so lazy? I've long wanted to kill them. Now that this question was asked, the girls naturally heard it immediately. A girl in white shrank back and said, "The 2 young masters live next door." Chu Yang's eyelids twitched. "Come in and talk. The one on the right is the clan's first young master, Li Ju. The one on the left is young master, Li Xiongtu." The girl in white walked in hesitantly and said with her head lowered. After Li Xiongtu returned to the clan, he didn't participate in the clan ranking. All the servants in the Li clan addressed him as young master. Li Xiongtu? Chu Yang's eyes flashed. It was him. Yes. Ever since young master came, he has been recognized as the clan's cultivation maniac. Young master's diligence and hard work are also second to none in the entire Li clan. The girl in white had admiration on her face. Men who worked hard to improve themselves were always valued by women no matter which world they were in. And in this world, the so-called improvement was cultivation. Oh. Chu Yang waved his hand thoughtfully. "You may leave." The girl in white agreed and walked out in small steps. These girls were all a little curious about this Lord Z. He specifically asked for beautiful girls to serve him. When they arrived, all of them were pessimistic and hopeless, thinking that they wouldn't be able to escape from humiliation this time. They didn't expect this guy to come over for them. But he didn't even look at them. What was going on? After the girls escaped death, they were instead a little puzzled. Could it be that this guy didn't have that kind of ability at all and deliberately asked a few beauties to cover his face? Thinking about it, everyone felt that it was very possible. Therefore, the girls became even more cautious. I heard that this kind of person would do that because of that and that. So, his heart is also we must be careful. Don't let him do that because of that. Chu Yang used enough energy to absorb the earth core fire for a while. Then, he felt that the fire underneath was already somewhat weak. Chu Yang stood up from the bathtub. The next moment, he had already put on his clothes. Yes, a white robe. And this was after Chu Yang came to the upper three heavens. It was her first time wearing clothes of another color. He had always been dressed in black. Moreover, the black clothes were made by Wu Qianqian. Ever since Chu Yang knew that there were words at the bottom of his robe, every time he wanted to change his clothes, these words would appear like a magic spell. Chu Yang, Qianqian likes you. Therefore, he cancelled his plan and put on the black clothes that Wu Qianqian had made for him, thinking of this. Then, he thought of Wu Qianqian, who was still lying in the tribulation space after receiving the Supreme Chapter in order to protect him. Chu Yang's mood couldn't help but become somewhat heavy. Sigh. Resurrection grass. I'll go out and take a look at this young master. Don't follow me, Chu Yang instructed. Then, he casually walked out. When the girls saw that he had actually come out today, they were all shocked, but when they heard his words, they immediately calmed down. Chu Yang floated out like a wisp of smoke. In the courtyard next door, under the starlight, Li Xiongtu's tall and sturdy body appeared even more tall and mighty. In such an extremely cold place. He was actually only wearing a pair of shorts, which wrapped around his waist. At this moment, his entire body's cultivation had been completely squandered by him. He was purely using the strength of his physical body to move a huge piece of star iron from the ground. This piece of star iron. Chu Yang estimated that it was at least 5,000 pounds. If Li Xiongtu still had his cultivation, there wouldn't be any problem in moving it. But now, his meridians didn't have any energy at all. Moreover, more than half of the strength of his physical body had been used up. Li Xiongtu's muscles bulged. With a low groan, the star iron left the ground. Li Xiongtu's whole body trembled. With another groan, he slowly raised the star iron above his head. A trace of admiration flashed in Chu Yang's eyes. With such great strength, an ordinary person would have to use all their strength to roar and spit out the turbid air in their chest. One must know that the words "open your mouth and exhale" were not said casually. Opening your mouth and exhaling before exerting strength could, firstly, increase your confidence. Secondly, it could also allow the turbid air in your body to be expelled. The louder your voice, the more powerful it would be, but Li Xiongtu didn't do so. Obviously, he was afraid of disturbing other people's rest. The fact that he could stay here meant that the Li clan valued him. He didn't need to care about anything, but he still paid attention to this point. This was what Chu Yang admired. Then, Li Xiongtu held it up, adjusted his breathing, and began to slowly walk around the courtyard. With every step he took, the ground under his feet shook violently. Chu Yang noticed that there were many bags made of animal skin tied to Li Xiongtu's body and arms. The bulging bags inside should be filled with these high-density metals. 2 large bags were tied to his ankles. With every step he took, the ground would shake when he landed. If this was calculated, the weight of Li Xiongtu's entire body now reached at least 4,000 kilograms. To use pure physical strength to bear such weight, this guy was indeed risking his life for the sake of cultivation. Li Xiongtu walked faster and faster. Beads of sweat flowed down his naked upper body. Waves of white mist rose from his body. Chu Yang carefully checked Li Xiongtu's cultivation and couldn't help but be shocked. Li Xiongtu should have entered the upper 3 heavens at the same time as Dong Wushang and the rest. Now, he was already a 5th-grade martial saint. How could it be so fast? Chu Yang was shocked. Dong Wushang should have broken through to 1st-grade supreme martial artist now. But Dong Wushang's cultivation had benefited greatly from Rui Butong. And he had added fuel to the fire. Countless elixirs, even elixirs that didn't belong to this plane, had been produced at all costs. But Li Xiong-tu didn't have such resources. Not to mention 5th grade martial saint, even if he was a 5th grade martial monarch now, it should be unexpected. One must know that when Li Xiong-tu came up, he was only a 3rd grade martial emperor. But the Li Xiong-tu in front of Chu Yang was a 5th grade martial saint. This made Chu Yang feel surprised. As Li Xiong-tu walked, he was sweating profusely. His body was trembling non-stop, as if he would collapse in the next moment, but he didn't. All the muscles in his body were trembling. Chu Yang realized that every time Li Xiong-tu couldn't hold on anymore, he would mutter something fiercely. He listened attentively. "I can do it." Li Xiong-tu panted heavily. "The clan has too much expectations of me. If I don't work hard, I will look down on myself. I want to take revenge. Dong Wushang. I don't know what your cultivation is now. I want to fight with you. Dong Wushang. I want to fight with you. Benefits for no reason. Why? I don't feel well." Li Xiong-tu roared in a low voice. His voice was low and muffled. Only he could hear it. Later, his physical strength had reached its limit. Every time he roared, he would take a step. He was like a helpless and tragic ant. He was carrying a huge mountain and moving forward with all his might. Chu Yang sighed softly in his heart. Below. Li Xiong-tu continued to stubbornly move forward. Finally, his leg couldn't bear the weight. With a plop, his left leg knelt down. His whole body was trembling. He was still holding the star iron. His lips were trembling as he half knelt on the ground. 1358 steps. Compared to the last time, there are 5 more steps. Last time, I didn't stand up. This time, I will stand up. He kept roaring with all his might. He tried his best to gather the remaining strength in his body, trying to stand up. But he really didn't have any strength left. Just standing like this was already commendable. He couldn't stand up no matter what. After a long time, he let out a muffled groan. His burly body slowly fell to the ground. The heavy star iron pressed on his body. Panting heavily, Li Xiong-tu's eyes were ferocious and wild at this moment. A girl in white rushed out of the room. Her gentle eyes were full of heartache. She held a cup of water and walked to Li Xiong-tu's side. She said softly, "Divine skills can't be cultivated in a day. Young master, you have worked very hard. You will succeed sooner or later." Li Xiong-tu laughed bitterly. He drank the cup of water and suddenly channeled his energy. With a bang, the star iron fell from his body. He stood up fiercely again. "Divine skills can't be cultivated in a day. Of course, I know that. But I don't have much time. My opponents are each more abnormal than the other." Li Xiong-tu said lightly, "I want to walk in front. Even if I work hard, compared to them, I may not be able to walk in front." The girl in white said with heartache, "Young master, you always talk about your opponents. Who are your opponents? Are they the young masters of the other big clans? How can they be worthy of being my opponent?" Li Xiong-tu snorted, "My opponents? Only those who are worthy of my respect are my opponents. The young masters of the big clans. Hee. If they were born in the same environment as my opponents, these young masters would have died a long time ago." The girl in white's eyes were filled with fear and worry. "If they are your enemies, why don't the clans send a few experts to kill them? Why do you have to torture yourself like this?" "Bullshit." Li Xiong-tu panted and said sternly, "My opponents are heroes. They are my opponents, not my enemies. Against my opponents, I will do my best to defeat them, to conquer them. If one day I die in their hands, I will have no regret. I believe that if they die in my hands, they will also have no regret. Defeating them fair and square, this is me, Li Xiong-tu. Using others to defeat my opponents, I am nothing." Second update. Begging for votes. I will continue to write. Chapter 1253. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, third update. The white-clothed girl sighed and wiped his face with heartache. She said gently, "I won't stop you. Young master, you're a man. Men have their perseverance. Li Xiongtu grunted heavily. His breathing gradually calmed down. He looked at the white-clothed girl and his eyes suddenly became very gentle. He said, "Sister Huan, thank you for taking care of me during this period." The white-clothed girl's delicate body trembled. She slowly lowered her head and said, "I'm your maid. This is what I should do. I'm not worthy of being called Sister Huan by you." Li Xiongtu laughed and said, "What's there to be unworthy of? I, Li Xiongtu, am just a stray dog whose family has been destroyed. It's already a great blessing to be treated like this by a beauty like Sister Huan." The white-clothed girl's eyes became hazy. She bit her lips and said, "In my eyes, you're not a stray dog. You're the only man in this world who can support the heavens." Li Xiongtu sighed and stood in a daze for a while. He suddenly said, "Sister Huan, after I defeat or kill Dong Wushang in a fair battle, I'll report to the clan and marry you. Is that okay?" The white-clothed girl looked as if she was struck by lightning. She raised her head and looked at Dong Wushang. Her face turned pale and then red. Her delicate body trembled. "Young master, just call me Little Tutu." Li Xiongtu gently smiled. "My father and mother have always called me that since I was a child. When I was 13 years old, I was 8 feet tall and weighed 200 pounds. My mother still calls me Little Tutu." The white-clothed girl blushed and lowered her head. Chu Yang, who was watching in the dark, almost felt embarrassed. Little Tutu. This name was really too funny. But Chu Yang didn't laugh in the end. He even felt a touch of warmth in his heart. Even though this person's biggest enemy was Chu Yang's own brother, Chu Yang still felt a kind of warmth at this moment. For Li Xiongtu's perseverance and for Li Xiongtu's true feelings. But now, Chu Yang finally knew what Li Xiongtu was drinking. The faint fragrance that came with the wind told Chu Yang, this was the spirit stone milk. This was a top-grade divine item that could only be formed after thousands of years by chance. Its effect was comparable to Chu Yang's spiritual spring. Also, other than nourishing the human body, there was another function: increase in cultivation. It was no wonder that Li Xiongtu could withstand such high levels and Li. According to the spirit stone milk, Li Xiongtu, for every day, and Li, for every day, Li Xiongtu. The Li. That was they. Chu Yang sighed in his heart. Looks like. Seems, the Li clan Li translation Li was. Li translation. But translation Li's Li translation. Translation is Li translation. Li translation. Mo Tianji's plan. In the Li in. Although it was Mo Tianji's scheme, Li Xiongtu didn't care. Without was it. Li because, he were otherwise, he that, he but. Just the spirit stone milk was not enough to raise Dong Wushang from a 3rd-grade martial emperor to a 5th-grade martial saint in a year. With the spirit stone milk's effect and the hard work of an ordinary person, he could only reach a 3rd-grade martial monarch in such a short time. That was the limit. Li Xiongtu had put in a lot of effort to increase his cultivation. Although the spirit stone milk could make up for Li Xiongtu's physical exhaustion and raise his cultivation on the surface, in reality, it couldn't make up for it completely. In other words, Li Xiongtu was still draining his life force. It was just that no one would notice it. Once it happened, there would be no saving him. In terms of replenishing life force, the spirit stone milk was much worse than the spiritual spring. Even with the spiritual spring in hand, Chu Yang didn't dare to let Li Xiongtu use such an extreme method to cultivate. But Li Xiongtu had already done it for a year. But the only thing that Chu Yang didn't understand was why Li Xiongtu didn't know about it himself. Given Li Xiongtu's straightforward personality, if he knew the truth, he would definitely tell the truth. He would rather give up this kind of treatment than lie to others. But Li Xiongtu obviously didn't know about the current situation. Why was that? When the time comes, I've repaid the Li clan's kindness. I'll bring you to live in seclusion in the mountains and leave the Li clan. Li Xiongtu said in a low voice. Thank you, young master. The girl in white trembled. Li Xiongtu smiled gently. It had to be said that when such a warm smile appeared on the faces of iron-blooded men like Li Xiongtu or Dong Wushang, it would always make people feel an inexplicable warmth and happiness. The clan is sparing no effort in nurturing me now. There must be a reason. I've asked many times, but the clan always told me that it would disturb my cultivation and my state of mind. But I reckon that the clan wants me to do something big. Li Xiongtu smiled. No matter what. I have to do this big thing for the clan. As for your status, as long as I grow for a while and break through to Supreme Martial Artist, I'll be qualified to raise your status. You don't have to worry about this. Li Xiongtu raised his head, allowing the snow to fall on his face. He said calmly, as a person, one must distinguish between kindness and hatred, and know how to repay kindness. Although the Li clan has its reasons for treating me like this, I'm still indebted to them after all. So, no matter how difficult and dangerous it is, I have to do it. And I have to succeed. Fighting with Dong Wushang is also my life's wish. With a strong opponent in my life, I have no regret. Both of these things are life-threatening, so, I will raise your status first, and then, I have to marry you after these two things are done. If I die, you won't have to bear the name of a widow. If I die, you will forget everything about me and go find your happiness. I will make it clear to the clan. If I live, then I will give you your happiness. The girl in white started sobbing, tears falling down her cheeks. Her beautiful eyes were already misty. She bit her lip and didn't say anything, but she had made up her mind. If you live, I'll wait for you to give me happiness. If you die, what's so special about the happiness that others give me? I will follow you. But she didn't say it out loud. She knew that if she did, it would put pressure on Li Xiongtu. And she wasn't willing to give him any pressure at all, she only felt satisfaction. The name of Li Xiongtu's lifelong enemy, Dong Wushang. Today, she finally found out that he said it himself. She firmly remembered this name. I won't reveal it, but I have to remember it. My man is a hero, a good man. Then I believe that an opponent that my man values so much must also be a hero, a good man. I'll continue to practice. Dong Wushang rested for a while and felt his strength gradually recover. He said calmly, "Go and rest. Women shouldn't interfere in men's affairs." Domineering. This domineering attitude made Chu Yang's heart skip a beat. It was as if he saw his own brother, Dong Wushang. These two people really had the same characteristics. They were both powerful and domineering, born to be brave. But with Li Xiongtu's current physical condition, he definitely wouldn't be able to hold on until the battle with Dong Wushang. Although he didn't know it himself, his body was already seriously damaged. The sword spirit, who was also watching, gave an accurate estimate. At this rate, when Li Xiongtu broke through to the supreme martial artist level, he would be completely exhausted. When that time came, his life force would be exhausted. Even a heavy elixir would be helpless. The only way was to start recuperating and recovering from now on. But how could Li Xiongtu be willing to stop his rapid advancement? Chu Yang sighed and said, "Sword spirit, get me a big bag of spiritual spring water." The sword spirit was stunned. "You want to help him?" Chu Yang said solemnly, "Yes." The sword spirit was confused and couldn't understand. "Didn't you hear? Once his cultivation breaks through, his biggest opponent will be your own brother, Dong Wushang. Don't tell me you want to help the enemy deal with your own brother." Chu Yang said seriously, "You don't understand. Dong Wushang is my brother, and Li Xiongtu is his opponent. But, you have to know one thing, Li Xiongtu desires an opponent like Wushang, and Wushang similarly desires an opponent like Li Xiongtu. If this world doesn't have Li Xiongtu, Wushang will be very lonely. A hero needs an opponent in the world," Chu Yang said lightly, just like Mo Tianji. The most brilliant battle of his life should have been with an opponent like Diwu Qingru. Both sides were evenly matched, and each had their own unique strategies. I believe that the most brilliant moment of Mo Tianji and Diwu Qingru's lives should have been when Mo Tianji rushed up to the upper three heavens. After this battle, even if there will be more battles that are 100 times more dangerous in the future, the battle between the two great geniuses will be a satisfying one. And before this, The most satisfying battle of Dong Wushang's life was the battle with Li Xiongtu at the Lake of Despair. Wushang is waiting for Li Xiongtu, and Li Xiongtu is also waiting for Wushang. This feeling, you should understand. You fight to the death, but you are only enemies. You are not opponents. My opponent is the word great. Only heroes are worthy of being opponents of heroes. Meeting a worthy opponent and meeting a talented general is the greatest joy in life. It also gives people the feeling that there are no regrets in victory or defeat. Victory or defeat is a hero. No regrets. Even if you die, you will also die with a smile. The sword spirit didn't speak. Li Xiongtu slowly drew out his broadsword and muttered, "Dong Wushang, what realm are you at now?" Suddenly, the sword tip trembled, and bright sword flowers filled the sky. At this moment, a soft voice suddenly sounded in Dong Wushang's ears, "Li Xiongtu, if you continue to train like this, only death will await you. Don't you know?" Li Xiongtu's body shook. He looked around and shouted, "Who is it?" Chapter 1254. As soon as Li Xiongtu said this, he quietly waited for a response. However, the snowflakes were everywhere and the surroundings were silent. There was nothing unusual. The girl in white hurriedly ran out. "Young master, what are you talking about?" Li Xiongtu's face was serious. "An expert is here. Stand behind me." The girl in white looked nervous, but she didn't stand behind Li Xiongtu. She said, "Since young master has an important guest, I'll go and make tea." She turned around and walked back gracefully. Although her body was trembling, she was very calm. If an expert was here, she couldn't embarrass her sweetheart. She should make tea for him. If he was an enemy, standing behind Li Xiongtu would only be a hindrance to him. Her sweetheart might be taken advantage of by the enemy in order to protect her because of her presence. Therefore, she made a prompt decision to leave immediately. If the enemy ambushed her while she was leaving, then Li Xiongtu could seize the opportunity to see the enemy clearly and give him a fatal blow. Looking at the delicate figure walking into the room, Chu Yang couldn't help but admire her. He smiled hoarsely. "What a beautiful woman. Li Xiongtu, you're very lucky." Li Xiongtu smiled lightly. He knew that the person who came was an expert. He stopped prying and said generously, "Thank you for your compliment. Li Xiongtu feels the same. Please come out for a chat." "There's no need for a chat." Chu Yang said lightly, "I only want to ask you. Do you know that you've damaged your foundation by forcing yourself to cultivate? You're almost at the end of your life." Li Xiongtu fell silent. He said lightly, "I only want to become a supreme martial artist. I want nothing more than to fight with my enemy and settle my grudges. It won't be too late to recuperate then." Chu Yang said softly, "However, by then, it will be too late." "It's already too late." Li Xiongtu's eyes flickered. "Who are you? You seem to know a lot about me. Do you know a lot?" Chu Yang chuckled and said, "I just want to tell you about the cultivation level of the opponent you value the most. He's far beyond you. He's almost at the level of a supreme martial artist." Li Xiongtu was unmoved. He said lightly, "So what? One day, I'll catch up to him." Chu Yang said, "But your body's condition now. It's not allowed." Li Xiongtu chuckled. "So what if I don't allow it? So what if he allowed it? I only recognize my opponent. Why should I care if others recognize me?" Chu Yang laughed. "Not bad, I'm in a good mood. However, I can help you recover." Li Xiongtu rolled his eyes and said, "I don't need your help. I don't need anyone's pity." Chu Yang chuckled and said, "Li Xiongtu, catch." Immediately after, a black bag flew over with a whooshing sound. Li Xiongtu's eyes flashed as he caught it. He only heard the sound of water splashing inside. He asked curiously, "What is this?" Chu Yang said indifferently, "This is the spiritual spring. A cup in the morning and evening. 1 month. It can make up for the deficiency in your body. It's best if you store it in a purple crystal container. Otherwise, the medicinal effects will run away. But there's no more." Then, Chu Yang's body flashed and disappeared without a trace in the boundless snow. Spiritual spring. Li Xiong-tu's body trembled, and he shouted, "Who exactly are you?" This sentence was different from the previous conversation, and it was a fierce shout that shook all directions. However, the surroundings were silent, and no one answered. Li Xiong-tu got up and quickly circled around the walls. He shouted, "Who exactly are you? Why did you give me this?" Still, no one answered. But the commotion over here had already attracted the attention of the Li clan's higher-ups. As one of the tribulations, Li clan naturally paid special attention to Li Xiong-tu. Figures flashed and several supreme martial artists of the Li clan appeared in the courtyard. Before they could say anything, Li Wubo also appeared. Then, with a long howl, Li Tongtian's voice came from afar. What happened? In Li Xiong-tu's room, that bag of spiritual spring was placed on the table. There were a total of 6 supreme martial artists, all of them sitting around the table, their eyes looking at this bag like searchlights. Li Tongtian sat at the head of the table and looked at this bag. What's inside? Li Xiong-tu frowned and said, "Elder Master, I heard that it's the spiritual spring." Spiritual spring. When these 4 words came out, the breathing of all the supreme martial artists quickened. Li Tongtian's eyes widened abruptly and 2 rays of light shot out. "Let me see." When the bag was opened, an indescribable fragrance slowly seeped out. Everyone's nostrils twitched greedily. Li Tongtian dipped his finger in a little bit and put it into his mouth. His expression instantly changed. He immediately closed the bag and murmured, "It's indeed the spiritual spring. Moreover, it's already in a milky state. This is good stuff that's equivalent to a peerless heavenly treasure. This bag must weigh at least 20 catties." Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. 20 catties of spiritual spring. This was an astonishing amount of wealth. It was enough to revive the dead and extend one's lifespan. Everyone's eyes became heated at once. Where did it come from? Li Tongtian looked at Li Xiong-tu extremely perplexed. Li Xiong-tu said, "I don't know either. I was cultivating just now." Therefore, he recounted everything that had happened just now without hiding anything at all. Li Xiong-tu was extremely surprised and also extremely perplexed. But what made him even more surprised was that these old men in front of him actually didn't seem to find it strange. Instead, they felt that it was only natural. Li Wubo's finger tapped lightly on the table. Tilting his head, he asked with a half-smile, "You didn't see clearly what the person looked like?" Li Xiong-tu replied in a daze, "No." Li Tongtian said with a smile, "You don't know who he is either? And you don't know what relationship he has with you?" "Yes." Li Xiong-tu's eyes widened and he answered with certainty. "Hu ho ho." In other words, you don't know who he is, when he came, and even more so, the cause and effect. But he gave you a big bag of top-grade heavenly treasure, the spiritual spring, as though he was crazy? Li Tongtian's smiling face was full of wrinkles. Li Xiong-tu slapped his thigh. "You're absolutely right. This is really extremely strange. Elder Master, is this really the spiritual spring? Is it really not fake? There's nothing fishy about it. Could it be that it's poisoned?" The muscles on Li Tongtian's face showed signs of spasming. Looking at Li Xiong-tu, he felt like he was secretly gnashing his teeth. "Yes. It's not fake. It really is. It's definitely correct." Li Xiong-tu fainted right away. Scratching his head, he was extremely perplexed. What's going on? Who's on such good terms with me? To actually give me such a good thing for no reason, without even showing his face. That's right. It's very strange. Everyone curled their lips and slanted their eyes as they chimed in. What's going on? This supreme martial artist, including Li Tongtian, who had the highest cultivation, and Li Wubo, who was the most experienced and astute, all had very strange expressions on their faces. There was shock, astonishment, and even an expression that said as expected. "It's like this again." Li Xiong-tu sighed in his heart and lowered his head. He didn't know how many times he had seen such expressions. Every time, as long as something incomprehensible happened. The moment he said "I don't know," everyone would welcome him with such an expression. After such an expression, everyone would say in unison, "There's nothing strange about it. Hee hee. It's very normal. Hee hee, very normal. every time he saw such an expression. Li Xiong-tu had an impulse to give it a hard punch. Fuck your grandpa, would all of you die if you were to speak more clearly? Li Tongtian and Li Wubo looked at each other and saw the same thought in each other's eyes. This must have been given by that person. Then, they looked at Li Xiong-tu with a meaningful gaze. Looking at this honest and simple little guy, I didn't expect him to lie without batting an eyelid. His voice was natural and lifelike, and he wanted to keep the entire clan in the dark. It was obviously given to you by your boss, yet you can actually lie through your teeth and say that you don't know anything. Why would a stranger give you such a good thing if you don't know anything? Then why didn't he give me such an idiot? Why did he have to give it to you? Could it be that I'm not as handsome as you? Look at you, you look like a bear, but you're not that handsome either. Do you really think that the Li clan is full of idiots? If we were all idiots, would we have been able to become a big clan and stand strong for 10,000 years? However, it's also a good thing that this little guy is a little scheming. When the time comes, the tribulations will gather and think about whether they can discuss with this little guy to kill one of them and then insert Li Ju. Or directly. Then, their eyes landed on this big bag of spiritual spring water at the same time. This was a treasure. So much spiritual spring water, how should they deal with it? Elder Master. One of the supreme martial artists rubbed his hands rather embarrassedly. You also know that my grandson was injured a few years ago. This. Cough cough, I only need a cup. No, half a cup. A wine cup will do too. Cough, forget it, cough cough, Elder Master, you also know that I have an old illness. This. Half a wine cup will do. Hihi, take it that I didn't say anything. Elder Master. This. Forget it, take it that I didn't say anything. Looking at Li Tongtian's murderous gaze, everyone wisely kept their mouths shut and lowered their heads. Xiong-tu, Li Tongtian said kindly, since someone specially gave it to you, it belongs to you. You can keep it for yourself. I'll get someone to send you the purple crystal bottle later. Cough. It's the 7 of you, hurry back and get the purple crystal bottle. Each of you bring 5. Hurry up. The 7 supreme martial artists were so miserable that they wanted to die. Damn it, not only did they not get any fishy smell, they even had to pay 5 purple crystal bottle. Don't waste these spiritual spring water. Li Tongtian said kindly, just follow what that. Herho said, a cup in the morning and a cup in the evening. Don't break it. Do you understand? Recommended a new book, Urban God Heaven Plume Goes into Battle Again, releasing new urban supernatural book number 2532989. Heaven Plume was a veteran author. This was well known. This fellow really had a way to pick up girls. Those who like urban novels, go and take a look. I believe that you won't be disappointed. Chapter 1255. Even Li Xiong-tu couldn't understand why Li Tongtian was so stingy. In his opinion, since he was getting it for free, it was only right that he give some to everyone to treat their old injuries. Besides, they didn't ask for much, just half a wine cup. Staring, Li Xiong-tu said in surprise, Elder Master, this. Everyone needs it. It's not a big deal to give some to everyone to treat their injuries. The corner of Li Tongtian's mouth twitched. He thought to himself, it's not a big deal. It's a big deal. If you give them a drop and cause your ranking in the tribulation to drop, then, the entire Li clan will be suppressed for 10,000 years. You must know that the tribulation has to be ranked. It's easy to give it to them now, but if they are ranked at the bottom in the future, even if you crush their bones and scatter their ashes 10,000 times, you will still have to endure 10,000 years of oppression. How can you give it away? That's definitely not allowed. Li Tongtian muttered to himself, not to mention these few guys, even I can't take it. If I take it, I'm afraid the Elder Master will personally skin me alive. But since Li Xiong-tu had said so, Li Tongtian naturally had to express his opinion. Xiong-tu said that he wants to give it to you. Do you want it? The threat in his tone was so obvious that even a dog could hear it. The 7 supreme martial artists shook their heads. What are you talking about? This belongs to Xiong-tu. We're just joking, ho, just joking. Okay. Li Tongtian nodded satisfactorily. Then, his expression changed. Then why aren't you going back to get the bottle? What are you waiting for? Waiting for Xiongtu to give it to you? Ho, can you accept it? The 7 supreme martial artists left in a sorry state. Li Xiongtu was stunned. How ruthless. He even blocked the path that he had secretly given it to them. He's really good at acting. As expected of the tribulation, this thought popped up in both Li Tongtian and Li Wubu's minds at the same time. That girl, come over here. I'll instruct you. Li Tongtian shouted, you have to keep an eye on young Master Xiongtu. Then, you have to watch him drink this cup in the morning and at night, understand? The girl in white replied with a trembling voice, yes. Li Tongtian nodded satisfactorily. Li Xiongtu was very dissatisfied with Li Tongtian's attitude. Frowning, he said, Elder Master, this girl. I like it very much. Furthermore, I've already decided that if I break through to the supreme level, I'll hand it over to the clan and raise her status. I'll take her as my wife. The implication was, of course, be more polite when you speak to her in the future. The white-clothed girl, Meng Huanhuan, immediately blushed and lowered her head. What? Li Tongtian and Li Wubu were both shocked. This shock was no small matter. The two of them actually stood up. You want to marry a girl? Li Tongtian frowned. Yes. Li Xiongtu said resolutely, she's not a girl, she's my wife. Li Tongtian's brows twitched violently at once. However, Li Wubu seemed to have thought of something and suddenly sat down. He asked, Xiongtu, has the person who gave you this treasure seen this girl? Li Tongtian came to a sudden realization and looked at Li Xiongtu with a burning gaze. Li Xiongtu was startled. How is this matter related to that person again? What did it have to do with him? Still, he replied, I saw him. Li Tongtian asked anxiously, then, did he say anything? Frowning, Li Xiongtu recalled and said, at that time, he said, what a beautiful girl with a pure heart. Li Xiongtu, you're very fortunate. Yes, that's what he said. Li Tongtian and Li Wubu heaved a sigh of relief at the same time. They sat back down. Smiling, he said, the Li clan won't ask about your marriage. Since Xiongtu has taken a fancy to her, as long as you've made up your mind, I'll inform the clan tomorrow. We'll just give this girl a status. Is there anything else to say? Li Wubu also nodded with a smile. The white-clothed girl, Meng Huanhuan, couldn't help but let out an ah. She raised her head and forgot her place. She wouldn't even dream of it. The clan would be so straightforward. In her heart, the clan had groomed Li Xiongtu this way. Of course, it was the core of the clan. Which of the core members didn't get married to a lady from a respectable family? As for herself, to be able to be Li Xiongtu's concubine in this lifetime was already enough. She didn't expect that something that she didn't even dare to think about would actually happen just like that. That's not right. When did the clan become so easy to talk to? Even young Master Li Ju was grounded and beaten by the clan for opposing his own marriage. It was only in the end that the girl he had taken a fancy to was taken in as his concubine. Li Xiongtu was also stunned. So easy. Why? Why did it seem like something was wrong? Little did he know that Li Tongtian and Li Wubu were holding their breaths in their hearts right now. Damn you, Li Xiongtu. You were still saying that you didn't know anything just now. Now, you actually know how to use that person to pressure us. The Tribulation Sword Master is already choosing a wife for his brother. What's the use of us objecting? Why didn't you say so earlier? You almost put us in an awkward position. As they spoke, the 7 supreme martial artists had already returned with the purple crystal bottles. Li Tongtian personally filled the bottles to the brim with spiritual spring water. In the end, there was still half a cup left. Everyone stared at it eagerly. Li Tongtian pondered for a moment and shouted, "Open your mouth." Everyone's mouths were wide open. With a swoosh, Li Tongtian poured all the spiritual spring water into Li Xiongtu's mouth. Then, he turned around and scolded, "Look at your useless faces. What a disgrace." I told him to open his mouth. Why did you open your mouths? Are you trying to disgust me to death with your mouths full of stinky teeth? At this moment, the 7 supreme martial artists really wanted to die. After leaving Li Xiongtu's residence, the 7 supreme martial artists went back with their heads drooping. They sighed along the way. Li Tongtian and Li Wubo strolled back in the snow. How is it? Now, you're sure, right? Li Tongtian laughed softly. I'm sure. Li Wubo's voice was trembling a little. That was from excitement. Initially, I thought that Li Xiongtu shouldn't be. Because his expression didn't seem to be fake. But this time, TSK. Li Tongtian rolled his eyes. How can you see through tribulation's schemes? Forget it, let's not think about it anymore. After going back this time, I can finally have a good night's sleep. At least for the next 10,000 years, I can be at ease. Li Wubo nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes. But this Tribulation Sword Master is indeed powerful. Our Li clan's security is very tight. But this Lord Sword Master can actually come and go as he pleases, disappearing without a trace. Li Tongtian snorted and said, otherwise, how can he be the Tribulation Sword Master? Li Wubo nodded repeatedly. Yes. Sigh. I wonder how that child Li Ju is getting along with Xiongtu now. If he can improve further, if our Li clan occupies 2 seats in the land of tribulation in the future. Stop. Remember to settle that lasses matter tomorrow. Li Tongtian rolled his eyes and walked away on his own. Li Wubo sighed. That girl has really climbed up the social ladder. She's a lowly person to begin with. Could it be that she's going to become the wife of tribulation in the future? Chu Yang had already returned to the hot spring. Regarding this matter, Chu Yang felt a little comfortable but also a little melancholy. Of course, he was more speechless. Because he didn't expect that Li Xiongtu, this simpleton, could actually be so simple-minded. He had already told him clearly that this was a priceless treasure, the spiritual spring. He didn't expect that after he left, this fellow still yelled so loudly. Couldn't he have made a fortune silently? Of course, if he knew what happened afterward, he would be even more speechless. To be honest, Chu Yang only wanted to help Li Xiongtu this time. Firstly, he couldn't bear to see such a hero die in such a manner. Secondly, Li Xiongtu was a little worried. Secondly, it was also so that Dong Wushang would have a worthy opponent in the future. Then, when he stood at the peak, Dong Wushang wouldn't feel lonely, just like the legends now, Bu Liuqing and Ning Tianya. Other than that, Chu Yang didn't have any other thoughts. But what he didn't expect was that things would be so dramatic. Because of Li Xiongtu's yell, things took an unimaginable turn. Chu Yang's unintentional act instead solidified Li Xiongtu's position as one of the tribulations in the eyes of the Li clan. It eliminated the last bit of doubt. It also made the Li clan's hesitation to fight to the death with the 8 superclans to become as firm as a rock. And they were 100 times more confident and full of fighting spirit. If someone from the other 8 superclans were to encounter someone from the Li clan now, the Li clan would definitely act boldly and confidently, and kill them. Be ruthless. Be as cruel as possible. Fight for one of the tribulations of the Li clan. One had to say that this was an opportunity in life. It was really, too, miraculous. Of course, Chu Yang didn't know that he had unintentionally added fuel to Mo Tianji's extremely sinister plan once again. He didn't know either. Not only did his bag of spiritual spring water resolve Li Xiongtu's life-threatening situation, it also resolved Li Xiongtu's most troublesome marriage. The great minister Chu, who never left his name after doing good deeds, didn't know about all these. He just soaked naked in the bathtub again, absorbing the Li clan's foundation, the energy of the earth fire, to enrich his dantian unceasingly, to harmonize the yin and yang in his body. Then, he extended both his hands into the pile of purple crystals, vigorously absorbing the energy of the purple crystals that the Li clan had painstakingly excavated. He even narrowed his eyes, thinking very hard, why is it that even though we've already excavated 1,000 feet into that huge purple crystal mine, there's still no sign of the soul of the purple crystal? He was really an insatiable person. In the wee hours of this day, Lord Z appeared at the purple crystal mine again with a frosty expression and purple aura around him. He walked in coldly, ignoring all the people who greeted him along the way. However, everyone only greeted him respectfully and then hurriedly ran away. Chapter 1256. Only the manager of the Purple Crystal Mine, a third-grade supreme martial artist, Lord Li Qingliu, had nowhere to run or hide. He could only brace himself and follow beside Lord Z, enduring his incessant curses and complaints. That bunch of idiots didn't come again, did they? Lord Z's question left Li Qingliu at a loss for words. I don't think so. If that happens again, Li Wubo might as well jump into a cesspool and drown himself. This question was even more impossible to answer. Li Qingliu could only smile bitterly. Lord Z muttered to himself as he walked in. Li Qingliu smiled bitterly behind him and braced himself to follow. When they were about to reach the end, Lord Z suddenly turned around. Are you very free? Ah, no. Manager Li Qingliu was very perplexed. Then why are you following me? Lord Z roared furiously. Hurry up and get to work. Li Qingliu ran away, scared out of his wits. Only a ghost would be willing to follow you. But if you didn't ask me to leave, would I dare to leave? Manager Li truly felt how reasonable this sentence was. After walking for a long distance, he couldn't help but sigh. Damn it. Being with a king is like being with a tiger. Lord Z once again sat in that most comfortable position. He was wearing a mink coat and there were tall purple crystals on the left and right sides of his head. Then, with an extremely dissatisfied expression, he reached out and stuck the purple aura on the gap that had returned to the size of a teacup. Get to work. The sword spirit came out at once and darted in at lightning speed. In the tribulation space, it started to rain heavily again. Before long, the sword spirit's excited voice rang out. Lord Sword Master. Soul of the purple crystal. The soul of the purple crystal has appeared. Chu Yang shuddered. The purple aura on him almost dissipated. He hurriedly stabilized himself and his consciousness was guided by the sword spirit. He entered this treasure trove. It was surrounded by a patch of sparkling purple crystal cores. Pieces of purple crystal jade essence entered his vision. However, at the innermost part of the purple crystal jade essence, a patch of dense purple aura was revealed. It seemed to have condensed into a physical substance. It floated up and down. Take it out and let me see. Chu Yang said anxiously. All right. The sword spirit collected all the purple crystal cores and purple crystal jade essence around him. He collected thousands of pieces in one go and finally revealed the so-called soul of the purple crystal. It was a piece of purple crystal that was emitting a purple aura. He appeared quietly. Other purple crystals, even the purple crystal jade essence, would only emit a purple glow. However, this piece of purple chi continuously emitted from its body, curling upwards. In an instant, everything became hazy. And all the purple crystals that were enveloped by this aura seemed to gradually deepen in color, so the soul of the purple crystal can increase the quality of purple crystals. Realization dawned on Chu Yang. Yes. Generally, in the large-scale purple crystal mines above the Imperial Palace, every purple crystal mine would definitely have a piece of soul of the purple crystal, slowly nourishing it. As for the soul of the amethyst, even if he was found, he wouldn't take it out. If you hurt your foundation, the sword spirit said. I see. Chu Yang's eyes lit up. In that case, how much can a piece of soul of the purple crystal increase one's cultivation? The soul of the purple crystal only provides the purest heaven and earth yuan qi. But converting the heaven and earth yuan qi into cultivation is a personal matter. How can you say that? The sword spirit was somewhat dissatisfied, but he still explained, it can provide you with endless spiritual energy. No matter where you are, no one can bear to completely absorb a piece of soul of the purple crystal. Therefore, I also don't know how much a piece of soul of the purple crystal of this size can increase one's cultivation. Okay. Chu Yang nodded and gave the highest order. Collect. Collect all of them. The sword spirit chuckled and immediately began to collect without restraint. Chu Yang's consciousness retreated in satisfaction. Yes, I, the Lord Swordmaster, won't do such menial work. I'm only in charge of waiting in the tribulation space. Minister Chu's consciousness entered the tribulation space. He moved a purple crystal chair and sat down. Crossing his legs, he looked at the pitter-patter of the rainstorm. Purple crystal core, purple crystal jade essence, soul of the purple crystal. Only then did Chu Yang realize that the sword spirit had already opened up more than 10 large warehouses in the tribulation space. The largest one was, of course, filled with the million ordinary purple crystals that Chu Yang had originally earned from the outside world. The sword spirit had treated them like trash and piled them up into a pile. Next was a warehouse. 2 of them were already full. Inside, all the purple crystal cores were neatly stacked. Row after row, as if they were in a military parade. Following that were 2 warehouses filled with neatly arranged purple crystal jade essence. Next was a small warehouse. At this moment, there were already 17 to 18 pieces of souls of the purple crystal inside. And they were still falling from the sky, falling. At this point, I close my eyes and have a dream. In the dream, I'm sitting in my room with my legs crossed, and then the RMB in the sky is falling from the sky in rows, falling. This time, Lord Z worked overtime continuously. However, the overtime period was extended by 1 day. It became 4 days. In these 4 days, the sword spirit worked himself to death, but his achievements were also remarkable. All the warehouses that had already been opened up were already filled to the brim. The sword spirit simply opened up another 20 large warehouses. At first, Minister Chu was still very excited to go in and count his points. 1 million, 2 million, 4 million. In the end, Chu Yang became numb to it. Fuck. How would he have so much free time to go in and count his points? He would just take as many as he wanted. It was often said that counting money until one's hands cramped, but the current Minister Chu had obviously exceeded this realm. He was already counting money to the point where he would feel annoyed at the sight of money. However, young Master Chu was still very concerned about the number of souls of the purple crystal. He repeatedly counted them one by one. In the end, he determined that in these 4 days, he had collected a total of 1,538 pieces of souls of the purple crystal. Countless purple crystal jade essence. Purple crystal cores. Who would still have the patience to talk about that? As for ordinary purple crystals, now, Minister Chu even wanted to throw away ordinary purple crystals like trash. Fuck. They were too much of a hindrance. They took up too much space. Just like that, 10 consecutive days passed. On this day, 2/3 of the treasures in this huge purple crystal mine had already entered the tribulation dimension. And Chu Yang had also opened up the hole outside to the size of a basketball. This progress. It really couldn't be said to be slow. When Li Wubua, the clan master of the Li clan, heard this news, he would wake up laughing even in his dreams. Of course, if he knew that the thing that he had been excited about for a lifetime had actually become someone else's wedding dress and that someone else was eating the meat. If he didn't even get to drink the soup, he would probably wake up crying in his dreams. He would completely turn into a baby and cry when he woke up. When he got tired of crying, he would sleep. The sword spirit was also very excited. He continuously overdrew. After continuously mining these treasures to the limit, the sword spirit discovered that his mental strength had actually increased by almost double. Originally, it could only last for 3 days. Now, it could already last for 5.5 days. This was a remarkable improvement. Of course, Chu Yang himself had also improved greatly during this period of time. He had already absorbed most of the earth core fire. Now, the Li clan's earth core fire could already barely be considered warm. He reckoned that after some time, by the time this Lord Z left, the earth core fire would have already frozen over. The purple crystal mine was about to reach the bottom soon. The holy crystals actually hadn't appeared yet. Lord Z was rather anxious. He urged the sword spirit to increase his efforts. Finally, on this day, the sword spirit was mining. After collecting the purple crystal cores, purple crystal jade essences and souls of the purple crystal that were several feet thick, suddenly, A brilliant purple light shot out like a bolt of lightning. This purple light was brilliant and magnificent. It was insufferably arrogant. It was as if a rising sun had suddenly appeared in this treasure trove. The holy crystals have appeared. The sword spirit roared excitedly. Chu Yang went in with a flash. He couldn't see what shape it was at all. There was only the dazzling and brilliant purple light shining in front of him. Chu Yang swallowed his saliva. Hurry up and collect them. The sword spirit hurriedly collected them. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In a whole afternoon's time, the entire purple crystal mine was emptied. Below them was already the ground. There was only the dazzling purple light in midair. It actually didn't land on the ground. It just floated in midair. Both Chu Yang and the sword spirit were dazzled by this amazing sight. It was really too beautiful. After a long while, when their eyes got used to the light, they finally saw that this ball of light was made up of different things. In the center was a round object the size of a pigeon's egg that was emitting a dazzling purple light. Around it, according to some mysterious trajectory, there were 10 egg-sized round objects floating in midair, forming a ball that surrounded the pigeon's egg-sized object. 10 holy crystals. 1 divine crystal. The sword spirit murmured. There was a kind of hysterical excitement in his eyes. So many. Chu Yang was shocked. A peerless treasure. 1 holy crystal was enough to create an expert like Ning Tianya. And here, there were 10 of them. Chu Yang's breathing quickened. Hurry up and collect them. Minister Chu's face turned red. I can't collect them. The sword spirit was helpless. He was much greedier than Chu Yang. When he saw them just now, he wanted to collect them into the tribulation space. But after trying several times, they actually didn't move at all. How can it be? Chu Yang tried to collect them with his mental power and found that they really didn't move at all. The 10 holy crystals moved slowly and rotated according to a mysterious trajectory. They just floated in midair, neither up nor down, and shone brilliantly. Try using your hand. The sword spirit said, I'm a soul body. It's not as solid as yours. Chu Yang nodded and tried to reach out his hand into this purple light. As soon as he reached in, his whole arm turned into the color of purple crystals, and it was still darkening. But Chu Yang didn't feel uncomfortable. Instead, he felt infinitely comfortable, as if his whole body was soaking in a hot spring. His whole body was surrounded by warmth. The next moment, Chu Yang's finger came into contact with a holy crystal. He slowly clenched his fist and held the holy crystal in his hand. Inexplicably, he felt a burning sensation in his soul. He steeled his heart and used his strength to pluck this holy crystal. After a few days of continuous outbursts, I'm 500 votes behind in one night. The gap is about to break through 100 votes. This result makes me extremely sad and indignant. Gee, I beg for monthly votes. Gee. Chapter 1257. When he was mining this holy crystal, Chu Yang suddenly felt his heart tremble inexplicably at this moment. In front of him, a strange battlefield seemed to have appeared. At a glance, Chu Yang felt that his soul had been hit hard at the same time. In this image, there was a person who was burly, mighty, and domineering. His entire body was purple, and he held a purple light sword. He moved unhindered amidst countless people, and with each swing of his sword, several hundred strange-looking people died under his sword. The battle was getting more and more intense. The enemy was getting more and more people, and they surrounded him like a tide. He was fighting like a madman. Behind him was an impregnable pass. There were no comrades, no companions. He was fighting alone, using all his strength to stop these strange people from entering the impregnable pass. He did not know fatigue. His expression was fierce, but his eyes were tired and persistent. There was also a trace of indifference that came from seeing through the world. But since he had seen through the world, why was he still fighting like this? Chu Yang looked and was sure of one thing. If this person wanted to leave, even if the enemy had 1,000,000 soldiers, they would not be able to stop him. If he wanted to leave, he could leave. Even the enemy was hoping that he would leave. But he did not leave. He was fighting. He was fighting like crazy. Seemingly helpless, 3 figures suddenly flew out from the enemy's camp. They approached from afar, and in an instant, they flew to the battlefield from afar. These 3 people each had a pair of black wings. Their faces were strange, and their noses were sharp. They did not look like people of the continent. The 3 of them stopped in midair, and seemed to be talking about something. On the ground, the burly godlike man raised his head and said something angrily. As for what he was saying, Chu Yang could not hear it. This scene was completely silent. After a long time, the enemy army retreated like a tide. On the battlefield, 4 people faced each other, 3 against 1. This person waved his sword and got into a fighting stance. Then, he said one sentence. It was very short. Even though there was no sound, Chu Yang could still read the 2 words from the movement of his lips. Come. The other party seemed to be saying something, but the burly man ignored him. Finally, the 3 of them separated and formed a battle formation. The burly man with purple light around his body laughed and rushed up with his sword. The 4 of them rolled around and fought fiercely. Then, the image was enlarged infinitely. As the 4 of them fought, Chu Yang could clearly see the surrounding mountains explode one after another, turning into flat ground, and then into huge craters. Then, the 4 of them leaped up and went straight into the green heavens. As they fought, Chu Yang could see that the surrounding starlight was extinguished one by one. Was that the residual power of the energy waves that destroyed the living continents one after another? This battle seemed to have lasted for a long time. If the 4 of them were to fight one-on-one, the big man would definitely have the upper hand. But 3 against 1, he was no match for them. In the battle, he was constantly injured, but he continued to fight and did not retreat an inch. In the end, the 4 of them were exhausted, while the burly man was already covered in cuts and bruises after fighting 1 against 3. Finally, he stopped abruptly and said something. All of a sudden, the 3 winged beings showed a frightened expression on their faces. They turned around and tried to leave. However, this burly man's body suddenly emitted a purple light that reached the heavens in an instant. The purple light was dazzling and resplendent, illuminating the starry sky for millions of miles. Then, the burly man shouted something, and his body suddenly exploded. The 3 of them seemed to scream at the same time, and their bodies were torn apart in the explosion. More than half of the enemy's camp in the distance was also destroyed by this huge explosion at this moment. Chu Yang's heart trembled. An emotion called heroism suddenly filled his heart. From the movement of the burly man's lips, Chu Yang could clearly see what his last sentence was. That was extraterrestrial demon. Come with me. A beam of light suddenly appeared and disappeared in a flash. The image suddenly disappeared. Chu Yang stood there in a daze. Only then did he realize that his face was already full of tears. This should be the battle of the extraterrestrial demons. But why did it appear here? At this moment, the sword spirit shouted, "There are words here." Chu Yang was shocked. He opened his eyes and looked over. In front of him, at the place where the holy crystal and the nerves appeared, there were words formed by purple light. Experiencing thousands of dangers and tribulations, tasting the waves of the 3 rivers and 4 seas, I was originally a free and unfettered traveler, moving freely in broad daylight. War drums in the extraterrestrial domain soared to the sky. How can the blood in my heart rest? Today, my heart will be destroyed. I will turn this body into tribulation waves, leaving behind 1,000 years of legacy. My loyal heart will be a legend for eternity. There are countless people in the heavens, but it's a pity that no one can accompany me. Today, this body will go all out. Can you change the blood in your heart? Junior, who has received the inheritance, do not forget to fight the extraterrestrial demons. Chu Yang's heart trembled. This was a poem that was written before death. The person who wrote this poem must be this burly man who died in the battle. It could be seen that this person was not very refined. The poem he wrote was also not very smooth, and there were some sentences that did not make sense. However, there was a sense of heroism, a sense of sadness, a sense of depression, and a sense of heroism that went straight to the heart, making Chu Yang's heart feel heavy. For a moment, it was as if he was being weighed down by lead. Below, as the light flashed, big words appeared continuously. It was this person's life. My name is Zihao, the Heavenly Emperor of the Purple Cloud's Heavenly Palace. I am in charge of the Purple Cloud's Heavenly Palace, which borders the extraterrestrial realms. The Purple Cloud's Heavenly Palace has always been a place that the extraterrestrial realms and the Heavenly Palace's militarists must fight for. Back then, I rushed to the Heavenly Palace with my blood and energy. For tens of thousands of years, I conquered the East and West and became the Heavenly Emperor. The saint bestowed the title of Heavenly Emperor of the Purple Cloud's Heavenly Palace upon me for my bravery and skill in battle. In name, I was bestowed with the title of Marquis, but in reality, I was charging and breaking through enemy lines. However, my nature is fierce, and my blood boils when there is a battle. I did not take it to heart. I ran the Purple Cloud's Heavenly Palace for 150,000 years. The extraterrestrial realms were small and insignificant, and could not take a step forward. In the year of the Heavenly Palace's calendar, there was a great change in the extraterrestrial realms. The living space of the extraterrestrial demons was assimilated by the heaven and earth day by day, and the environment became more and more hostile. They were restless and wanted to occupy the Heavenly Palace. I sent messages to the Heavenly Palace several times, but they were all rejected. Therefore, I could only worry day and night, and prepare for war with all my might alone. On the 18th day of the same year, the Heavenly Palace celebrated peace with songs and dances. The extraterrestrial realms' war drums shook the heavens. Millions of extraterrestrial realms troops stepped into the Heavenly Palace. Zhong Liang, the commander-in-chief of the border, and millions of soldiers retreated before the battle. In one night, the Purple Cloud's Heavenly Palace was exposed to the enemy. I rose to kill the enemy and sent a message to the Heavenly Palace. If the Heavenly Palace was responsible for killing the enemy, how could the extraterrestrial realm's clowns be worth mentioning? However, everyone was comfortable and coveted life. The crime of sensationalism caused me to fight alone. The 7 million soldiers under my command, along with their families, all died in the hands of the extraterrestrial realm's strong enemies in 3 years. None of them survived. My sworn brother, the 7th brother, Leng Yu, fought against the extraterrestrial demons and was killed. My family perished together. My brother, Han Qiong, was trapped in the Heavenly Wolf Pass alone. He fought until there was not a single soldier left before his body exploded and he died. My 5th brother, Meng Hui, led an army of 100,000 to meet the extraterrestrial realm's 400,000 troops and perished together. My 4th brother, Quang Dao, rushed to help my 5th brother. He was ambushed and died an unnatural death. My 3rd brother, Bai Luo, died in battle at the Heavenly Wolf Pass. My 2nd brother, Xue Ji, guarded the Purple Cloud's gate and turned into blood of righteousness. My eldest brother, Zhang Xuan's family of 300, guarded the Heaven Breaching Pass. Surrounded by enemies from all sides, the jade-shattering Heaven Breaching Pass. My son, my eldest son-in-law, my eldest daughter, 7 million soldiers, 20 million family members, Purple Cloud Heaven's combat power, none survive. 450 million subjects, all of them perish. I, Zihao, will fight my last battle today. The 3 extraterrestrial demon marshals will definitely take action. There is no doubt that I will lose this battle. There is no such thing as luck. However, the blood of my brothers flowed in front of me. How can I, Zihao, drag out my life? This battle is the only way to repay my brothers and my subject. Back then, I boasted, as long as I, Zihao, am here, the extraterrestrial realms will not be able to take another step forward. I did it. I am comforted. My brothers and subjects, there are no cowards. Although they died in battle, their noble spirit lives on forever. I am comforted. Even if I die in battle, I will reunite with my brothers. I am comforted. Only my heart is indignant. The Heavenly Imperial Court rises. What can the extraterrestrial realms do? However, the heavenly soldiers of Zihao fought for a year. When we were at the end of the road, when we were on the brink of death, the Heavenly Imperial Court sang and danced in celebration. Hundreds of billions of living beings did not send any reinforcement. Today, I die a worthy death. I have no regrets. I only have one thing in my heart, Why are people's hearts so cold? What followed was a repetition of hundreds of sentences. Why are people's hearts so cold? Why are people's hearts so cold? Why are people's hearts so cold? The last sentence was, if I go today, who will protect my purple cloud heavens? Chu Yang's gaze focused. He did not speak for a long time. The message left by the heavenly emperor of purple cloud heavens, Zi Hao, gradually disappeared in a dazzling purple light. Finally, it turned into a majestic pass. It was tens of thousands of feet tall and tens of thousands of feet wide. Majestic and vast, it was indomitable. There were 3 big words, each of which was half the size of a city. Purple light flashed, purple cloud heavens. This was a hero. Chu Yang's heart was filled with respect. He thought silently, this Zi Hao fought alone until he died. He could be said to be a hero of his generation. However, the words he said before he died were so infuriating. There are countless people in the heavenly imperial court. It's a pity that no one can accompany me. My Zi Hao heavenly army fought for a year until they were at the end of the road. At the moment of life and death, there were hundreds of billions of people in the heavenly imperial court, but there was not a single reinforcement. Today, I die a worthy death. I have no regrets. I only have one thing in my heart. Why are people's hearts so cold? Why are people's hearts so cold? These words, coming from the mouth of a hero who fought against foreign invaders, at the moment when he was at the end of the road and longed for reinforcements, were so sorrowful. There was not a single reinforcement in this year. Hero. Chu Yang murmured. He watched his brothers die one by one, he watched his descendants step onto the battlefield one by one and die without a complete corpse. In the end, he even stepped out with awe-inspiring vigor and fought a decisive battle with the invaders in the heavenly imperial court. He died and died. However, after he died, there was still a little bit of his spirit that was not extinguished. He left behind this amazing treasure. He also left behind a sentence, do not forget to fight the extraterrestrial demons when I receive the inheritance. Don't worry, if I can rush up to the heavenly imperial court, I will go to the battle with the extraterrestrial demons. Chu Yang clenched his fists and said quietly, I will restore your purple cloud heavens. With a crash, all the holy crystals suddenly fell at this moment. Chapter 1258. Ever since the light screen appeared, the holy crystals and divine crystals had been motionless in the air. They seemed to be waiting for something. Chu Yang took down the holy crystal. The circle of holy crystals was still hovering in the air. Chu Yang vaguely felt that they seemed to be looking forward to something. It was also as if that ancient soul, that unyielding fighting soul, was looking at him with bright eyes. Chu Yang's blood surged as he said, don't worry, if I can rush up to the heavenly imperial court, I will go to the battle of the extraterrestrial demons. I will restore your purple cloud heaven. This sentence was a promise. Chu Yang's promises had always been bloody and resolute. Before he finished speaking, 18 holy crystals fell at the same time. In the divine crystal house, 18 holy crystals were neatly arranged around. There seemed to be a faint sigh in the air. It was a kind of relief of finally being at ease. There was also some disappointment and apology. Chu Yang could understand this sense of apology. Although it was only a faint sigh, Chu Yang completely understood. I'm sorry, but I can only leave you this much. I have a lot of things, a lot of inheritances and combat power, but I was really at the end of my rope at that time. I can only leave you this much. I can't leave more. As a celestial emperor of a generation, he could only leave behind these treasures. It was undoubtedly a little shabby, but Chu Yang only felt a stirring and tragic feeling. This heavenly emperor of purple clouds must have already used up all his energy and treasures in battle, to be able to leave behind such treasures when he was at the end of his rope. It was already very good. Chu Yang completely believed that if it weren't for the obsession and unwillingness in his heart, he wouldn't have even left these behind. He would have used them all in battle so that he wouldn't leave a single trace of his life in this world. Chu Yang took a long breath. He said, you don't have to apologize. Even without these, the extraterrestrial demons. I will still kill them. In this space, all the purple smoke finally disappeared. It regained its clarity. The sword spirit absorbed all the holy crystals and divine crystals into the tribulation space. Chu Yang took the one in his hand. He also put it into the tribulation space. When the holy crystal in Chu Yang's hand entered, the 18 holy crystals inside flew up at the same time and immediately formed a big circle in the air. Light radiated in all directions. The 10 saint crystals revolved around him, and balls of pure purple crystal energy flowed out endlessly. At some point in time, the divine crystal had returned to its core and was suspended in the tribulation space, illuminating the entire space. A sea of purple. Chu Yang suddenly realized that the primordial violet vapor in the tribulation space was slowly becoming denser. At this moment, all of the spirit medicine's branches were covered in purple drops. It seemed that they were growing even more vigorously. Chu Yang's eyes were full of solemnity as he watched all these changes. Sword Spirit, have you ever heard of the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor's name? Chu Yang asked lightly. The Sword Spirit thought for a while and said, I've never heard of it. But it's in the Heaven Imperial Court. The Purple Cloud Heavens does exist, but now, it has already become the base of the extraterrestrial demons. The place where the extraterrestrial demons are stationed. Chu Yang's heart ached. He said angrily, how can the place where heroes died in battle become the place where the extraterrestrial demons gather? Did the people from the Heaven Palace eat shit? Has Xue Leihan eaten too much shit? The Sword Spirit kept quiet out of fear. After a long while, he said, this Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor must have been a figure in ancient times. Chu Yang's anger had not subsided. He snorted heavily and asked, is Xue Leihan a saint in the Heaven Imperial Court? The Sword Spirit coughed violently. No. What is a saint? Chu Yang asked. The Sword Spirit was dumbfounded. Looking at this audacious little brat, he said, a saint is a supreme being. You have to be respectful. Respect his ass. Chu Yang said rudely, don't talk nonsense with me. In the future, I'll be a saint in the Heaven Imperial Court. What's the use of a saint who watches his brothers fight alone for so many years without providing any reinforcements? The Sword Spirit was speechless. He shut his mouth and did not speak. This guy was angered by the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor and actually wanted to rebel against a saint. The more he said, the more mistakes he would make. Even if he did, it would be a big deal. What is Xue Leihan's ranking below the saints in the Heaven Imperial Court? Chu Yang asked. At present, his first. The Sword Spirit was careful. Coward. Chu Yang scolded. The Sword Spirit became mute again. After a long time, he mustered up his courage and said, the war between the Heaven Imperial Court and the extraterrestrial demons has been going on for millions of years. At that time, Lord Xue may not have the position he has today. Not necessarily. Chu Yang panted, but he finally let go of the topic of Xue Leihan's inaction. He said, the Heavenly Emperor of the Purple Clouds has placed his own treasures here. The Double Heavens continent has obviously given up on the people of the Double Heavens Imperial Court, but I, Chu Yang, will not disappoint him. Chu Yang said heavily. The Sword Spirit said flatteringly, Lord Sword Master will not disappoint anyone. Chu Yang raised his eyebrows. After a long silence, the Sword Spirit seemed to have thought of something. Lord Sword Master, in that divine crystal, there must be the legacy of the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor. Chu Yang's eyes narrowed. But now, with Lord Sword Master's strength. You are not qualified to receive it. The Sword Spirit said weakly. Chu Yang flew into a rage. Quickly disappear in front of me, with the speed of clouds. In the next few days, the Li clan members realized that Lord Z had become lazy. On average, he only went to the Purple Crystal Mine once every 2 days. And every time he went, it would only be for an hour. He would pretend to dawdle and then call it a day. With the greatest treasure already in his hands, how could Lord Z still be interested in working for the Li clan? His greatest interest now was the Li clan's Earth Core fire. But after another 2 days, the Earth Core fire was actually gone. That hot spring had actually frozen over. Chu Yang was furious. He flew into a rage. Too weak. I haven't had my fill yet. He didn't think about it. His mental strength was the best in the world, and the sword spirit's was definitely not weaker than his. With the two of them desperately absorbing the earth fire together. Even if the Li clan had plenty of earth fire resources, how many days could it last? And he was still complaining that it wasn't enough. If he really had his fill, then how strong would the Li clan's foundation be? Seeing that the Li clan's treasures were gone, as well as the earth fire, Lord Swordmaster Chu wanted to leave. On this day, Chu Yang was in his room thinking about how to leave when he suddenly received news that the clan head had come to visit. It was actually Li Wubo who came personally. Haha. Brother Z is really in a good mood. Li Wubo naturally wouldn't visit him for no reason. He was here to rush him. Brother Z, you've been very free these few days. Chu Yang rolled his eyes and said, are you blaming me for being lazy? I wouldn't dare. Li Wubo gave a fake smile. My technique has improved again recently. I'm currently gathering energy. Chu Yang frowned. If I have a large amount of purple crystals, I can break open a small part of this thing within a day. Currently, I'm looking for a suitable opportunity. Before he left, Minister Chu was prepared to extort him again. Break open a small part of it within a day? Li Wubo's eyes were wide open. Really? Chu Yang said unhappily, how can I lie about such a big matter? Li Wubo was overjoyed at once. He asked, how many purple crystals do you need? A rough estimate would probably require about 2 million pieces. Chu Yang did some calculations and said with a frown, this is indeed not a small amount. I'll prepare 3 million pieces for Sir. Li Wubo immediately decided. Compared to being able to break open the treasure as soon as possible, what were 3 million purple crystals worth? If this guy were to continue at this rate, he might not be able to break open the treasure even after 3 to 5 years. Furthermore, by that time, he would probably have to spend a few hundred million. Clan leader Li, great job. Chu Yang was beaming with joy and slapped his thigh. But may I know when Brother Z can start? Li Wubo asked. Once the purple crystals are gathered, I'll immediately activate the purple crystal heaven opening technique. After that, I'll need a few days' time to accumulate energy to the peak. Then, I'll be able to make my move anytime. Chu Yang said seriously, but clan leader Li, please take note that once I activate the technique, there'll definitely be no more energy left in my body. It's highly likely that I'll be injured by the recoil. Therefore, there must be an expert behind me. Once I launch the attack, he'll immediately pull me away to avoid the brunt of the attack. Li Wubo was even less suspicious. He agreed readily. Of course. Brother Z's safety is currently the most important matter of the Li clan. There definitely won't be any accidents. Chu Yang looked deeply touched. He said, since clan leader Li thinks so highly of me, then today, I'll give clan leader Li a piece of news in return. This is a huge secret that concerns the situation of the heavens. What news? It actually has such an effect. Li Wubo couldn't help but lower his voice. As far as I know, this purple crystal mine of your clan isn't actually the number one in the continent. Chu Yang lowered his voice and said mysteriously, the true number one purple crystal mine in the continent. I know where it is. The number one purple crystal mine in the continent. Li Wubo's whole body shook. Then, he smiled and said, if there really was one, it would have long been occupied by others. How would it even be our turn? Li Wubo wasn't surprised that it wasn't the number one purple crystal mine in the continent. After all, back then, it was the Yi clan, Xiao clan, and the rest who chose the location first. Moreover, these few clans had been wealthy and powerful for tens of thousands of years. If they didn't have a large-scale purple crystal mine, that would be the strangest thing. No, as far as I know, that purple crystal mine is still ownerless even now. Chu Yang raised his eyebrows. Really? Li Wubo's eyes were burning. Where is it? Chapter 1259. Only one person knew. At once, Li Wubo felt a sense of bliss. In that case, if he killed this person, The largest purple crystal mine in the world would belong to the Li clan? If what this successor of the purple crystal clan said was true, then, by then, the Li clan would possess this purple crystal mine, as well as the number 1 purple crystal mine in the world. Who in the world would be able to stop them? Who is this person? Patriarch Li's voice was laced with a hint of murderous intent. A sense of killing and robbing under the dark night was spreading. Does Clan Master Li know of a secret technique in the world called Purple Crystal Hand? Chu Yang asked calmly. Amethyst Hand? Of course he knew. This is an extremely insidious martial art technique. Li Wubo introduced the Purple Crystal Hand as if he was very familiar with it. However, this martial art technique is only hearsay. No one has ever seen it before. It is said that it has already been lost. What do you mean? According to what I know, only in an environment where the density of purple crystals has reached a rather terrifying level can one successfully cultivate the Purple Crystal Hand. Chu Yang smiled lightly. And the person I'm talking about has already cultivated to the level of a 3rd-grade supreme martial artist, or perhaps a 4th-grade supreme martial artist or even higher. Chu Yang smiled and said, Clan Master Li, what do you think? The density of the purple crystals in this place where he's practicing the Purple Crystal Hand, to be able to let him have such achievements in such a short period of time? Li Wubo took a deep breath and said with a faint smile, this person's luck is really good. Chu Yang chuckled. I think so too, Clan Master Li. You're even luckier. Li Wubo smiled indifferently. However, there was a sharp glint in his eyes. Since you know this person, with your cultivation, why don't you take action personally? Wouldn't it be better to monopolize the purple crystal mine? Chu Yang spread out his hands helplessly. Clan Master Li, did you hear wrongly? As I said earlier, this person is at least a 3rd-grade martial artist. Or even 4th rank or higher. Does Patriarch Li think that I can kill him? Li Wubo replied dispassionately, it's not necessarily impossible to kill him, right? You are the sword sovereign. Little Chu Yang smiled bitterly. What a pity. He also represented a great power. Although this great power didn't know that this person possessed a purple crystal mine, but the trouble of killing this person is also monstrous. As expected. Li Wubo snorted coldly in his heart. He thought to himself, if you are confident, why would you leak this information to me? Are you that kind-hearted? What's the name of this person? Li Wubo asked. This person is called Lang Yilang, Chu Yang said slowly. Lang Yilang. Li Wubo was shocked. Law enforcement officer. The head of the torture chamber. Yes. It's him. Chu Yang said lightly. Absolutely impossible. Li Wubo was greatly displeased. You're lying to me. More than 8 months ago, there was a rumor that Lang Yilang might be in possession of the Purple Crystal Hand. The law enforcement officers had once examined Lang Yilang. The conclusion they reached was that Lang Yilang didn't know that martial art at all. Chu Yang smiled faintly and said, Clan Master Li, if there's someone in your clan who has the Purple Crystal Hand divine technique, then that person will be able to use the Purple Crystal Hand. Will you announce it to the world? This. Li Wubo started to ponder. In such a situation, there are only 2 possibilities. Chu Yang said, firstly, Lang Yilang has already cultivated the Purple Crystal Hand to a level above Supreme Martial Artist. He can control the power of the Purple Crystal Hand and hide it at will. Clan leader Li should be aware of this. The cultivation of the Purple Crystal Hand is very special. If he wants to hide it, even a low-grade Supreme Martial Artist won't be able to detect it. Unless the person who is investigating also has the cultivation of the Purple Crystal Hand. The second possibility is that the law enforcement officers want to take this purple crystal mine for themselves. Chu Yang said slowly, I have the Purple Crystal Divine technique and can completely prove this point. Also, I have witnesses and material evidence to prove that Lang Yilang has really cultivated the Purple Crystal Hand. Li Wubo pondered for a moment. This matter needs to be considered at length. Of course. Chu Yang nodded and smiled. I'll get someone to prepare the purple crystals first. Li Wubo got up and left hurriedly. Although he said that he needed to consider at length, Chu Yang clearly noticed that this clan leader Li's eyes were shining with eagerness. Chu Yang smiled inwardly. Of course Li Wubo couldn't wait. To the Li clan now, the law enforcement officers were no longer a concern. Right now, the law enforcement officers were clearly going against the Tribulation Swordmaster. Furthermore, the Li clan was clearly standing on the side of the Tribulation Swordmaster. Going against the law enforcement officers was a foregone conclusion. Under such circumstances, why would the Li clan still care about the law enforcement officers or the master of the interrogation hall? Even if it was the Dharma Supreme. If the Li clan had the chance to take him down, they would take him down without any hesitation. What Li Wubo cared about was not this but the accuracy of this information. Also, Li Wubo didn't really understand some of the things that Chu Yang said. Therefore, he had to go back and confirm it. That was all. Within a day, 3 million purple crystals were transferred. The sword spirit began to use the technique of absorbing, converting all the purple crystals into energy and absorbing it into the tribulation space. Li Wubo was also looking for a few veteran supreme martial artists to understand the situation. I heard that the purple crystal hand can only be cultivated in places with dense purple crystals. Of course, if the purple crystal hand could be cultivated so casually, how could it be called the purple crystal hand? Of course, it can only be cultivated when the density of purple crystals reaches a certain level. It won't work if the density is too low. Then the purple crystal mine of our Li clan, can it be cultivated? If we include the ones that haven't been mined, of course it can. If we only have what we have now, it shouldn't reach the level of purple aura from the east. If that's the case, is a purple crystal mine that can cultivate the purple crystal hand the number one purple crystal mine in the world? In principle, yes. However, regardless of whether it's the number one or the number two in the world, both have the right to cultivate the purple crystal hand. If one can cultivate the purple crystal hand to 4th grade supreme martial artist, or even higher, what kind of purple crystal mine would it be? A super purple crystal mine. The first question was completely clarified. What Lord Z said was true. I heard that Lang Yilang is cultivating the purple crystal hand. There's no evidence. And the law enforcement officers deny it. What if they can produce evidence? Then Lang Yilang himself is a huge treasure. The second question was clarified. What Lord Z said was still true. I heard that when the purple crystal hand is cultivated to the boundary between immortal and mortal, one can hide the power of the purple crystal hand at will. Only those who also possess the power of the purple crystal hand can detect it. Yes. According to the legends, there is such a saying. However, the exact level of cultivation required to be able to hide it is unknown. As for the power of the purple crystal hand, it's not a legend. Whether it's true or not is unknown. The third question was suspenseful. What Lord Z said was more than 70% reliable. Li Wubo was someone who did great things. Of course, he had his own decisions. After he confirmed it, he made a prompt decision and issued an order. Pay attention to the law enforcement officer's movement. In particular, pay attention to the movements of the master of the law enforcement interrogation hall, Lang Yilang. Of course, this order was very secretive. Especially, it had to be hidden from this successor of the Purple Crystal clan. If this treasure could be mined directly, what was the use of this Lord Z? Of course, if it still couldn't be mined, it wouldn't be too late to ask him to step in then. Moreover, it was chaos outside now. It was a chaotic world. The huge uproar caused by the news of Chu Yang being an extraterrestrial demon was still ongoing. Now, the whole world was searching for everyone related to Chu Yang. The flat mountain ridge in the southeast had become the focus of attention. Every day, many people of the pugilistic world would come forward to eliminate the extraterrestrial demon. Although those who went had never returned, the pugilistic world was so big. Who knew who didn't return? Therefore, everyone still went forward one after another. One day, news suddenly spread in the pugilistic world that the accomplices of Chu Yang, the extraterrestrial demon, had been discovered. Therefore, everyone gathered together to attack them. However, these few people were very tough. They actually broke out of the encirclement and wanted to break through to the southeast. However, since everyone had discovered them, how could they let them break through? Therefore, the roads leading to the southeast were all sealed off. The big clans contacted the law enforcement officers and the wanderers of the pugilistic world and spontaneously organized themselves. This cut off these few people's hopes of entering the southeast and joining forces with the extraterrestrial demon. It also caused the entire pugilistic world to encircle and annihilate them. These accomplices of the extraterrestrial demon were actually all veterans of the pugilistic world. They were wise and experienced. Left with no choice, they broke out of the encirclement. They fled all the way. Currently, they seemed to be heading toward the northwest. Because in the whole world, only the northwest didn't put much effort into this aspect. When Li Wubo received this news, he didn't think much of it. What did this have to do with the Li clan? You guys can do whatever you want. The more people who die, the better. What extraterrestrial demon? I don't care at all. However, he soon received a new piece of news. This piece of news made Li Wubo unable to sit still any longer. Because this piece of news said that among these accomplices of the extraterrestrial demon, one of them was actually related to the master of the law enforcement interrogation hall, Lang Yilong. Currently, Master Lang Yilong had already led everyone out of the law enforcement city and was traveling through the night toward the northwest. It was said that he wanted to kill this person personally, or perhaps, there was some other reason. In any case, the entire northwest of the continent, which had always been quiet, actually slowly started to become bustling with activity. Lang Yilong has come to the northwest. Li Wubo stood up abruptly as if he had taken medicine. Instead, he gave the intelligence officer who came to report a huge shock. Yes, that's great. Li Wubo rubbed his hands, unable to conceal the excitement on his face. This is really a huge pie that fell from the sky. If I don't catch it, I, Li Wubo, will really be too ashamed to face my ancestors. If one is lucky, even the city walls won't be able to stop him. Li Wubo was very excited. How could he not be lucky? First, there was suddenly hope for the purple crystal mine that hadn't been successfully mined for 10,000 years. Then, they received news of the #1 purple crystal mine in the world. Then, not long after they received this piece of news, the most important person actually delivered himself to their doorstep so coincidentally. Li Wubo couldn't contain the excitement in his heart. When a clan is about to prosper, there will definitely be auspicious signs. Didn't all of this prove one thing? The day that the Li clan will be able to make a comeback has finally arrived. Otherwise, how could there be so many good things happening one after another? This is the will of the heavens. Wahahaha, ahum, I went to the hospital with my wife today. Ahum, that thing was over. Hehe, that thing. Seems to be that thing. Ahem. That's why I'm going to the hospital with my wife today. Let's have more outbursts tomorrow. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.